Chapter 101 Descendants of Liars True Lie. Well, why do you encounter strange guys as soon as you go out to sea? These don't seem to be the ape guy, Roman. Luffy looked at the orangutan ship not far away. In other words, the forest ship turned around and asked Roman, so that Roman once again refreshed the strangeness of the human beings in this world. No, it looks like it should be. How would Roman describe this? If the orangutan who salvaged the boat looked like a gorilla at first glance, now this one looks like a fat version of a fusion of humans and monkeys. Anyway, it's up to you. Whether it's an orangutan or an orangutan, you want to have something in common with Luffy, right? Ha ha ha, so you are an orangutan. No, they are not that strong. It's decided, you will be called the king of the gorillas. How embarrassing is this? I'm at the Shichibukai level at most. No, you are the king of the gorilla. Since you said so, then the name of the king of the gorillas belongs to me. What is this called? It's not that the family doesn't enter the house. Roman simply gave up thinking and drove the boat by instinct, and at the same time, paper cranes walked through the buildings covertly, looking for their own goals. Ahem, crocodile is finished. The tall orangutan captain on the giant ship next to him scratched his chest. In terms of strength, I should take his place. The name of the king of the gorillas makes me terrified. Let's put it on hold for a while. What does it matter? Dreams are. By the way, what kind are you? Of course I'm human, idiot. Ha ha ha, I thought you were an orangutan. Ah ha ha ha. Luffy started chatting and laughing with the captain of the other party, and Roman rubbed his forehead habitually. This affinity is really impossible to learn. Well, since you know orangutans, you are my friends. The captain of the deep-sea exploration ship named Orangutan said, are you going to visit Mont Blanc Kulik? That's right, on the way. He is the boss of our Tsuruyama allied forces. Then please lead the way, hee. In this way, Going Merry followed the exploration ship smoothly, and there were all kinds of fresh fruits, from the fruit forests planted in this big ship. Everyone came to the east coast of Gaia noisily, and what caught their eyes was, wow, what a big castle! Appearing in front of everyone is a huge castle by the sea, which looks very gorgeous and majestic, but... Idiot, open your eyes and look carefully. Zoro leaned against the side of the boat with his eyes closed, a look of disdain on his face. It's not so much a dreamer as it a love of vanity. Sanji also flicked his cigarette butt. With Going Merry docked, because the large deep-sea exploration ship next to it could not get close to the shore, so Luffy and his party came to this building first. Ah, just a plank. Luffy, who came ashore, was disappointed. The castle in front of him was a huge plywood facing the sea. All they saw were pictures on the planks, and the real building was a wooden house behind a huge plank. There is a little difference between the seller's show and the buyer's show. By the way, why was he expelled from Gaia? Nami just asked, and immediately added. Roman is not allowed to answer. Okay, I don't know anything. Roman, who rolled his eyes, was too lazy to take care of Nami, because the paper crane he released finally found his goal. Can this be considered a boat? Looking at the ship in front of him, Roman didn't know how to complain. Is this a raft? Definitely a raft. You can go out to sea with 4 big logs bundled together, and you really have a personality, Blackbeard. Well, although this log with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters and a length of several tens of meters is a bit exaggerated, the cannon muzzles are opened on the front, rear, and left and right sides of the log, and a pirate flag with 3 heads hangs on the ship. Such a unique ship is undoubtedly the Blackbeard's car. That's it. The paper cranes flew in, and then automatically spread out into sheets of white paper and stuffed them under the bed, behind the cabinet, in the gap, and even in the barrel of the gun. Explosion paper, kilogram paper, yellow sandpaper. Exhausting physical strength, Nami made a bunch of these remote-controlled paper creations, and then sent them all into the unattended Blackbeard pirate ship, so that Roman even had to drive the Going Merry himself. But it's all worth it. Come on, if you dare to catch up, I'll let you go into the sea to feed the sharks. The other people in the Blackbeard Pirates are not capable, of course they are not afraid of seawater, but I don't believe that you can learn other logia flying if you are a dark fruit. Roman, what are you mumbling about? It's nothing. Roman, who had arranged the back road, stopped going merry. Sanji had already tucked the sails, and Robin also helped a lot. As for the others. Excuse me. Luffy, who pushed open the door of someone else's house on his own. Does one live in this deserted place alone? Zoro, looking left and right, looks like a good place to sleep. In addition to exercising frantically, his daily routine is to seize all the pieces of time to sleep, which makes Roman very envious. Chopper, I heard that there is going here, dig it. This is Nami who heard that Jaya Island has going. Hey, can you find anything you just dig? Chopper, who turned into a reindeer while digging soil, asked back. In short, it is unrealistic to expect them. Fortunately, Sanji, who did not meet a woman, and Robin, who did not see cultural relics, are more reliable. What is this picture book? Usopp picked up the book on the table next to him and opened it. Rolando, the great talker. Hey, is that your ancestor? In the face of Luffy's question, Usopp rises up. What do you mean by that? This is the famous story of North Blue, how could it be? It's my ancestors. Bang! A naked man wearing only a pair of swimming trunks suddenly jumped out of the sea next to him. Who are you, trespassing on my territory? Are they all for going? Going. In an instant, Nami's eyes turned golden light, causing the uncle with a diamond-shaped face to attack with bad eyes. As expected, go to hell. Bang. The nearest Sanji kicked out with a conditioned reflex, but he immediately paid for his carelessness. This uncle is actually a good hand. In the midst of the punches and kicks, Sanji was actually suppressed and at a disadvantage. Well, the strength of about 40 million. Roman, who was touching his chin, subconsciously began to estimate the opponent's strength, and Captain Gorilla, who was sitting in a small boat next to him, stop it and stop fighting. In the shouting, the ling-faced uncle suddenly fell to the ground with his hands on his chest. Sanji, who was fighting against him, was taken aback for a moment, and then he jumped away immediately. He fell by himself, it has nothing to do with me. You all have to testify against me. Who will help him? Chopper, go take a look. Roman pointed to the diamond-faced uncle who looked like he was touching porcelain. Of course, he had to go to a professional in this situation. Don't crowd around. Open the window. The towel makes it a little colder. Soon, under Chopper's first aid, the uncle who was moved into the house next door stabilized. It's diving sickness. Chopper is not a second knife like Roman who can only treat trauma. He quickly analyzed the cause of the diamond-faced uncle who suddenly fell to the ground. Diving sickness refers to the obstacle caused by the sudden return from the high-pressure condition of deep water to the ground under normal pressure. The nitrogen dissolved in the body fluid is quickly turned into air bubbles due to the fluctuation of air pressure, causing embolism. This air embolism obstacle, that's why the uncle passed out. Anyway, it's a very strange phenomenon. Luffy summed up Chopper calmly, silly. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Okay, someone go and tell the orangutan outside. Roman pointed back to the crying captain of the orangutan on the lawn outside the room. He is too big to enter this house. Their boss is all right. I'll go. Usopp turned and walked out. However, with this uncle's constitution, Chopper continued hesitantly after examining it. If it wasn't for long, high-intensity diving, he probably wouldn't get diving disease. This is the master of the 40 million bounty. Putting it on the earth is definitely a Superman who instantly blows up all the Olympic events. No matter what the chest is broken, the person can stand on the fist. Didn't he say it before? Roman raised the picture book in his hand, and on the cover was a man with a foolish face who was about to be executed. He is a descendant of the adventurer Rolando 400 years ago, and this is the going township, where Rolando's story has a huge amount of going. Then it's obvious why he's diving like crazy. Try to find a huge amount of going from the sea and wash away the shame of the ancestors for hundreds of years. Fart. The big diamond-faced man who woke up at some point in the bed took off the towel on his forehead and slowly sat up. Wash away that guy's shame. Whether that guy is a big talker or a real adventurer, he has nothing to do with me. But my childhood was a mess because of that guy. When I sailed here one day, I understood. The uncle who had just woken up rolled over and got out of bed. His footsteps were still trembling, but his face was like he would never admit defeat. This is my duel with him. P.S. I, Kai Wenji, have won 5 games in a row. Sure enough, Lao Kai couldn't help but grab it. When you come back, you all cast 400 votes, then I'll just code. Chapter 102 Confusion Dazzling Light. You want to ask me for information on Sky Island. The recovered Ling-faced uncle nodded when he heard the request of Luffy and others. Well, I can tell you all I know. But believe it or not, I believe. Bang. Facing Luffy, who didn't hesitate, Usopp next to him punched him in the head. The uncle hasn't even said it yet. This sea area. Roman opened his eyes when he said that the uncle opened Shikai and explained the unique, cumulative Emperor Cloud, the Sky Current, and his speculation about the Sky Island. On the other side. Wow. In a deserted alley in Mock Town, among the flying papers, a white figure slowly stood up. It was Roman's White Knight. Then. Do you want to get rich? Yay. One has fins on its back and wears a peaked cap with white horns on both sides. Wearing a giraffe-striped long sleeve, hot pants and white stockings, and 10 centimeters of dark red high-heeled shoes on his feet, a teenager or a pervert walking down the alley came out. Dellinger. The cadre of the Don Quixote family. Do you ban Fishman? Of course. It's Roman disguised as Exhibe goods. Facing the green Bailey in the hands of Derringer, the pirates who were doing nothing outside the alley lit up. And then. Kill you and we'll be rich in no time. A circle of knives and guns aimed at Dringer. Can't you come up with something new? Forget it, anyway, most pirates are just a bunch of scumbags. This is. Groups of timid pirates followed Derringer to the beach, looking at the huge raft in front of them, puzzled. That's your goal, yay. A pair of red high-heeled shoes stained with blood. Derringer turned around, and the cracked mouth full of sharp teeth glowed with white light. Go, destroy, plunder, do what you do best. Clap. The fallen Bailey in his hand smelled of money. Although the Bailey of this world is paper money, the anti-counterfeiting technology of the world government is still very high. Roman has not been able to crack this technology yet, and there is no time to waste. In his hands is the reward that Alabasta got, and it is enough to hire a group of pirates who don't care. These are deposits, and there will be 10 times the remuneration after the event is completed. If you're smart enough, you should know. Okay, the brothers did it. A group of pirates who picked up the money rushed towards the huge raft docked in this uninhabited bay with red eyes. They are not stupid, and they can guess that this guy called Dringer had a holiday with the owner of the ship, so they hired them to do this kind of thing. But now there is an empty ship in front of you. You can earn an income by simply fighting, smashing and looting, why not? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Sure enough, looking at the huge raft boat that began to smoke in the chaos and noise, but not a single pirate came out, not how dedicated they are, but because they have been controlled by greed. Blackbeard's boat has a lot of robbery, the plundered treasure. For example, the treasury of the Drum Kingdom. Greed is your epitaph. Then, Blackbeard's side should soon. Looking for death. A roar came from the town in the distance, a black murderous aura that was visible to the naked eye. This murderous suffocating aura suddenly became visible to the naked eye, filled with a black aura of domineering, brutal, greedy and other negative thoughts. Like lightning, it shot densely from a distance, and it was like a black wave rolling and swallowing everything. Rushing this way. Ka ka ka. After this period of training and hard work, Roman's strength has also been greatly improved. The White Knight is no less than the general, master, with a bounty of 50 million. However, being attacked by this momentum, Derringer began to have cracks on the exterior, and the raised corners seemed to be broken down into real paper. So strong. Muttering to himself, Derringer stared at the figure leaping in the distance, the fat body more than 3 meters tall, and flew out hundreds of meters in the air with just one kick. After a few jumps, he rushed towards this side quickly. But not using techniques like moonstep. Is it not? Or it was as if no, the black beard that leapt over was covered in an ominous black wave, as if a demon had descended into the world. Eagle-eyed Wolf Jiu Zhang swept towards Dringer, who was standing by the sea. In an instant, Blackbeard's pupils shrank. As a man who is determined to stand on the top of the world, of course he has a certain understanding of the opponents he may appear. And he also knew the cadre of the Don Quixote family in front of him. Could it be that Doflamingo's Flamingo noticed? Almost. The White Knight, disguised as Derringer, jumped back slightly. The man raised his middle finger while splitting his teeth in midair, made an international gesture to the leaping Blackbeard, and thumped. Submerged in the sea behind you. Snapped. The Blackbeard, who crashed to the ground, stared at the turbulent sea in front of him with an ugly face, and he had nowhere to vent his anger. This guy named Dringer is a half-fish man. Can he still go down and fight the opponent with his devil fruit ability? Damn it. Actually being mocked by a junior. Ha ha ha, great harvest. I didn't expect this broken ship to be so rich. A group of smiling pirates came out from the cabin holding various gold and silver treasures, just bumping into the ugly Blackbeard. Who is this big black man? Could it be? It's up to him, just chop it off. Very good, very good. Blackbeard, who was covered in black smoke, opened his arms and walked slowly towards these unfortunate bastards. It seems that my Blackbeard is really underestimated. Roman. Huh. With Dringer diving and fleeing, Roman also lost control of the White Knight. At the same time, the call in his ear brought him back to his senses, and what caught his eye was Nami, who was wiping his face with a towel, and Luffy and Usopp, whose heads were buried in the grass next to them, were pouting their butts. Ah, this. Am I missing something? Although I said that I would not let you mess around with information, but you just. Nami took a mirror and placed it in front of Roman. Hey, see for yourself. In the mirror, Roman's handsome face has black eyeshadow on one side, and there are subtle cloud patterns on the cheeks, but on the other side is a curvy beard, huge dark circles. Usopp's craftsmanship is good. Roman nodded calmly. Needless to say, I have Usopp's masterpiece on one side and Luffy's graffiti on the other. These two guys who are itchy all day without being beaten are doing something wrong again. Hey, you're so calm. It's an oil-based pen, you can't wipe it off. It's okay. Roman waved his hand, reached out and wiped his face, tearing off a face. Okay. It's okay to be a fresh and handsome Roman, but Luffy and Usopp, who just pulled their heads out of the soil. Or. Looking at the two guys with bruised noses and bruised faces, Roman spread his hands and two mask-like papers appeared in his hands. You put this on. Double injury 9 is different. Luffy, whose lips were swollen with bananas, took it and thanked him. 2 liver crab. Ah, nothing. Roman waved his hand. It's just to cover up your disfigured ugly face so as not to pollute the environment. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Roman, I fought with you. Watching Roman and Luffy banging together, Nicole Robin, who was sitting gracefully with her chin up, smiled. All eyes are envious. Whether it's Crocodile or Sky Island. For ordinary people, no, even the strong ones, they are targets that need to be treated with caution, but just because of Luffy's words, the entire Straw Hats rushed forward without hesitation. Such a companion, I am so envious. Pity. The intellectual beauty lowered her eyes, The reason why she stayed on this boat was just a deal by that Mr. Roman. As long as you see the next historical stone tablet, the transaction is over. Then what reason do you have to stay? The dazzling companionship between these people in front of them penetrated Nicole Robin's heart like sunlight, making her both longing and afraid. Chapter 103 Fear of Being Left Behind Real History. Hello, Luffy. Although he had already learned how to go to Sky Island from the diamond-faced uncle, Mont Blanc Kulik, Usopp still tried to convince Luffy with a flustered face. Think about it, as long as we fail, it will be the fate of the galleon we encountered before. No problem, let's go. Facing the smiling Luffy, Usopp pointed to Going Merry, who was parked next to him, with tears in his eyes. Look at Mary's delicate body, how could it be possible to withstand such a toss? Indeed. The diamond-faced uncle next to him nodded in agreement. Your boat is just an ordinary, caravel-style, sailboat. I'm surprised to be able to get here. What did you say, dead old man? As soon as he heard Going Merry's bad words, Usopp turned his face instantly. I'm just telling the truth. If you want to continue going on the Great Route, you'd better change to another one, forget it. Seeing that Usopp was already furious, the ling-faced uncle waved his hand. But this time, I can escort you apes and orangutans, and strengthen the hull by the way. Wrap it on us. X2. Captain Gorilla and Captain Orangutan next to him slapped their chests loudly, and Luffy thanked them with a smile on his face. Oh, thank you so much then. But Luffy, Nami pointed out a serious problem. If we stay in Gaia for too long, the record pointer in my hand that points to Sky Island will be assimilated and become the next island. Quote. Yes, Usopp let out a sigh of relief, and asked the diamond-faced uncle next to him, look, if you want to go to Sky Island, you must be in the two natural worlds of Emperor Cloud and Towering Ocean Current. When the phenomena overlap at the same time. Quote. How often does this happen? A month, a year, a decade. Tomorrow. How can such a coincidence happen? Facing Usopp, whose eyes were about to fly out of surprise, the uncle with diamond face asked back. You don't want to go to Sky Island? No, not. Usopp squirmed his lips, and finally retorted loudly. You're lying. That's so weird. We only met today, and you are so enthusiastic about us and you have to help us strengthen our ships. Usopp. Luffy next to him was interrupted by a sudden wave of Usopp before he finished speaking. More. It is said that two very rare weathers will appear at the same time tomorrow. Why do you think this is very strange? You are obviously the descendant of that big liar. Hey, it's time for dinner. Sanji and the two captains, the orangutan and the orangutan, came over. The materials are all from the uncle's house, are you? Huh. Taking a long breath, the ling-faced uncle walked towards Usopp, making Usopp nervously put on a fighting stance. Why, I was told that I wanted to fight. Snapped. A hand rested lightly on his shoulder. I've lived here for 10 years, and I can feel all the weather patterns in this area with my eyes closed. I don't dare to say 100%, but tomorrow is indeed the day when the Emperor Cloud and the Towering Ocean Current will appear at the same time. Okay, I'm very happy to meet you fools who are chasing their dreams. Uncle Ling-faced patted Usopp on the shoulder friendly. Now, let's have a meal together. Because we are all the same people. Hee, next to Luffy grinning Isho, eat dinner. I'm going to call Miss Robin. Chopper runs towards Going Merry. Huh, have you eaten yet? This is Zoro who suddenly woke up. Usopp, come over quickly too. As the Uncle Ling-faced passed by, Usopp, who was standing still, sat on the ground, facing Roman who walked in front of him with a frustrated face. Roman, do you think I'm a poor coward? Well, absolutely not. Roman replied without hesitation, facing Usopp who looked up and wanted to say something. Roman just stretched out his right hand. If you're a coward, what am I? No Roman, you dare to fight Sand Crocodile alone. That's not the same. Roman shook his head. Who got you so up? I dared to go to Sand Crocodile alone because I had already thought about the way out. In fact, if it wasn't for an intelligence error, Crocodile had armament hockey, I can get away with elementalization and flight. It seems that for Logia masters, armament hockey can be avoided, but it must be. Otherwise, there will be the embarrassment of Logia hitting Logia. You can't hit others, but others can catch you out. And you are different, Usopp. Even in the face of an enemy who is far stronger than you, even if you don't know it. You, who still won't back down for your comrades, are much braver than me. Roman, you really. When Usopp, who bowed his head and touched his tears, didn't know what to say, Roman patted him on the shoulder. I know, are you worried about going Mary? Don't forget that I can protect the ship with my abilities, and you have to have confidence in Mary. Go and apologize to Uncle. Woo, Uncle, I shouldn't have talked to you like this just now. Don't rub your snot on me. Ha ha ha, you're a good drinker. Facing the bold words of Captain Gorilla next to him, Zoro is evil and charming Isho. I haven't started drinking yet. Invisible X, the most deadly. Ha ha ha, everyone eat, we harvested a large group of sauri today. The orangutan captain brought up the plates of food. This Sanji-san's craftsmanship is really good. Roman, eat fish. When the crowd was rejoicing, only Nicole Robin watched with relish while holding the logbook of Rolando, who was called the Big Talker, 400 years ago. In the right eye of the skeleton, saw going. The diamond-faced uncle who was suddenly close to him startled Robin, and he pointed to the words in the logbook to himself. This is the sentence that made the king lead the soldiers to this island, and then failed to find the order of the king of going. Put to death my ancestors. What does the skeleton's right eye refer to? Somewhere, or his own death. That's why I've been diving into the water day and night, trying to find the truth. Roman, what do you want to say? Nami looked at Roman who said, I know the truth, but you won't let me tell it, so it's hard to hold back, and decided to make an exception. Do you know the truth of this sentence? Yes. In an instant, everyone in the room's eyes fell on Roman, while the diamond-faced uncle, the orangutan, and the ape captain were all focused. They worked hard for countless goals day and night. Could it be that? First of all, Rolando didn't lie. Roman took out a map of Jaya Island, which is the location of everyone, and placed it on the table, and then used his finger to outline a new terrain outside the island, forming a complete skull map. In fact, the truth is the same as what you guessed, Uncle. 400 years ago, when Rolando left the island encountered a rare giant, Tower of the Sky. The upper part of the entire island, the head and face of this skull were washed up to a height of 10,000 meters. And the part of the mouth that remains is today's Jaya Island. It's a very exciting story. When things came to an end, Uncle Linglian couldn't believe it himself. And what about going? The giant going is. Then it will involve the blank 100 years, more than 800 years ago. Roman shrugged. I don't know the specifics, but at that time it was still a city with the reputation of going township. Dora. It's a pity that it was later destroyed by the coalition forces, which is now the world government. Leaving behind a broken city and a small amount of going. If everyone is just listening to legendary stories, then Vivi's trembling Nicole Robin is different. Her lifelong dream is to understand the blank, historical text, for 100 years. Of course, this small amount is compared to the Shandora in its heyday. Converting it to the current value. Roman touched his chin. There should be billions of Baileys too. Ding dong. In an instant, Nami's eyes next to him turned into Going's color and sparkled. This Sky Island, we're going to make a reservation. You wouldn't think that Sky Island was left unmanned. Most of the goings were used by Enel to make an ark, and they dared to steal money from that person. Anyway, Going Township does exist, just to the right of the original island. Roman clicked on the completed map on the table. This is the meaning of Rolando's words before his death. Chapter 104 Road to the Sky Black Gang Attack. Oops. The rhombus-faced uncle, Mont Blanc Kulik, who was drinking was startled, and the straw hats all looked at him. Damn, just drinking. Tomorrow the sky current will appear due south of Jaya Island. Do you know what that means? Just go south. The question was so simple that even Luffy could answer it. But, idiot, this is a great course. A compass is completely useless, so you must grab one right away. State. A piece of white paper was inserted on the table, and Roman raised his chin towards the piece of white paper that was swinging towards him. No, as long as I insert 2 pieces of white paper on Jaya Island as a marker, I can easily calculate the direction of the boat from the angle between the two. Is this the devil fruit power? It's really convenient. Now that the problem of travel has been solved, of course. We're going to fly to the sky. We're going to the sky. We're looking for Going Township. We're looking for Going. La 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 la. Accompanying the banquet and wine are the songs of the pirates. There is no rhythm, no artistic conception. Just pure dream and happy. And in Mock Town on the other side of the island. Clang. Go away. Bellamy, who swept all the medical tools on the table to the ground, hung a bandage on one hand, kicked the doctor who was helping him, sat down and grabbed the wine glass with his left hand and took a swig. There was only Bellamy's gasping voice in the depressed tavern. The officials of the Bellamy pirates who were looking for fun in the past were all silent. After careful observation, even the number of people was half less than usual, far exceeding the number of injuries in the daytime battle. That is because Bellamy. Big Knife, Thatches asked hesitantly. Would you like me to take someone to take those traitors? No. Bellamy gritted his teeth with bloodshot eyes. When my arm is healed, I'll go myself. Bang. Bellamy, quote. A panicked pirate rushed in, interrupting Bellamy the hyena's incompetent fury. Why are you still here? Run away. Before everyone in the Bellamy pirates came back to their senses, the pirates who rushed in hurriedly raised the wanted order in Yang's hands. You've messed with someone you can't mess with. You'll be killed. Damn. Bellamy, who stood up suddenly, glared at the pirates who rushed in. If this guy and himself and others were not considered friendship, he would have let the other party taste the spring fruit. Look at this. The pirate who rushed in slapped the 2 wanted notices on the table, Zoro with blood and murder on his face, and Luffy with a grinning straw hat. Isn't this the accomplice of the monster during the day? This is 1, 2, 3. Am I drunk? How many zeros is this? 100 million. Fake it. What kind of character is 100 million? During the crackling, a circle of Bellamy pirates cadres stood up and stepped back. The 2 wanted notices on the table are Captain 100 million Bailey in a straw hat. 3 swordsmen 60 million. Where's that guys? Where's the monster that can't hit? Facing the question of Big Knife, Thatches, the messenger pirate who was picked up by his collar hurriedly waved his hand. No. Only these 2 guys have a bounty. I've seen it, and their pirates only have these 2 bounties. In an instant, the entire tavern fell silent. I let go of the Big Knife, Thatch's Adam's apple that sent the letter pirates, and finally spit out a word. I'm going to chase those traitors back. Bang. Then he suddenly pushed open the door and rushed out like an escape. Looking at how he looks alone, does he have any intention of chasing the traitor back? I'm going to help Thatch. Me too. Tread, tap. One by one, the so-called new era pirates stood up at the same time, or made inexcusable excuses, or retreated silently, all fled out of the tavern, and then get away. Call. In an instant, the entire Bellamy pirates ran away. Think about it on your knees. Even a crew member without a bounty can easily play them all and kill their boss Bellamy without fighting back. What kind of monster is the captain who has such a terrifying bounty on the other side? If you don't run at this time, wait. Snapped. Picking up the 2 wanted notices from the ground, Bellamy walked out of the door of the tavern after realizing it, and roared wildly in the face of the crew, who had disappeared without a trace. You idiots! It's just a trick to forge a wanted notice. How are those guys? How could it be possible? However, the more he talks about himself, the less confident he is. A crew member who has no bounty can let himself attack unscathed. If he really makes a move, there is no suspense. Impossible. It's impossible. Bellamy of the Bark of the Lost Dog stood alone at the door of the tavern, unwilling to accept the reality. 100 million bounty. How could a pirate with a 100 million bounty appear in? Snapped. As soon as the 5 fingers were released, the wanted order in Bellamy's hands fell into the hands of others. 100 million. Zia ha 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 ha. Quote. I knew that kid was more than 30 million, but I didn't expect. Hello. Who are you? The furious Bellamy turned to look at the big black man next to him. You don't put me Bellamy on. Snapped. A large hand covered Bellamy's face, pressing down lightly before he could react. It's noisy. Snapped. Bellamy, whose entire head was instantly buried in the soil, probably needs to call a doctor again. With luck. I don't have time to waste time with a small character like you. Blackbeard cracked a mouthful of missing teeth, and his eyes were filled with excitement. I want 100 million feet heads. I will soon be famous all over the world. Oh, are you finally going to start hunting interesting prey? Giza's Badgers, nicknamed Champion, laughs in the sky with a wrestler mask on. And Yinu, Van Oka, who was slender and carried an oddly long musket, just asked calmly. But Captain, didn't we say we were going to wait for Lafitte here? Don't worry, Ziahaha. Even if we miss it for a while, we will meet again in the end. Next to him was the ship Dr. Doc Kyuhei Isho, who was lying on a sick horse. Yes, fate is often used to measure the value of people. Cough. Wow, it's going merry, airplane mode. The next day, merry, trimmed and reinforced by the crew of Captain Orangutan and Captain Gorilla, who were professionally salvaged and probed, appeared in front of everyone. Let's go, Uncle. Facing Luffy and the others who were looking forward to sailing, Uncle Ling-faced stood on the shore. Boy, whether it's Going Township, or Sky Island. Those are things no one has ever proven. This made Roman, who was at the helm, pouted. Not only did Roger go there, but he also left evidence of visiting here. In short, no one knows whether these things exist or not. But because it's a dream, it's romantic. Romantic. Yes, so you must not fall from the sky. Absolutely not, Roman complained silently in his heart. Because of my existence, it seems that this desperate romance has been diluted a lot, but sure enough, I've never been a romantic person. Bullshit. Roman's muttering received a roll of eyes from Nami next to him. If you know what romance is, I'll jump off Going Merry right away. In short, under the escort of 2 orangutan salvage boats and orangutan exploration boats, Going Merry set sail all the way south. In this sea area, on a giant raft, composed of 4 huge logs, the sniper Fan Oka shook his head. No, my observation hockey didn't see them. Zia ha ha ha, then you have to concentrate. Blackbeard cracked his mouth, which was missing several teeth, and smiled happily. A reward of 100 million, there are members of the Rokushiki team, remember to catch them alive. That's right, Captain. Doc Q asked Blackbeard, who was standing on the left of the giant raft and rowing with the giant wood pulp. Why do we have a lot of human aura on our ships? Oh, a group of blind pirates touched our boat before, and I got rid of them. Blackbeard waved his hands indifferently, and then his face sank. I am more concerned about the master messenger of these people, Dellinger, the young cadre of the Don Quixote family. Why did he get some dregs to sabotage our ship? A warning, or a provocation? Chapter 105. The road ahead is smooth. Fly, Mary. Southern waters of Jaya Island. Found, dark night, in the southwest. Deep-sea divers out to find the location of the towering current. With 2 professional ships performing their respective duties, the exploration ship is responsible for monitoring the ocean currents, and the salvage ship is responsible for observing the weather route. Going Mary has the opportunity to have the harsh conditions of flying at the right time and at the right place. Reflection confirmed. A large current appeared at 12 o'clock. A huge creature appeared at 8 o'clock. It should be a sea king. At 10 o'clock, there is a wave opposite to the current, and it is confirmed to be a vortex. As the probe crews who dived into the water sent back information, the 3 ships moved quickly. It's 10 o'clock. Turn the rudder. The vortex is a sign of the eruption of the sky current. Keep up. It's crazy. If it is a normal ship, it is absolutely impossible to avoid the ocean vortex, right? Who can or who dares to take the initiative to drive the ship toward the center of the vortex? Hold on. Let our 2 ships hold the wind and waves for you. We hit the jackpot, a giant soaring current. The entire sea is full of roaring waves. If you look down at the sea from the sky, a giant vortex with a diameter of several hundred meters or thousands of meters appears on the sea surface, and the turbulent seawater rotates rapidly towards the center. Look around, nothing but waves or higher waves. The roaring seawater connects the sky, as if to fill everything up. In front of this natural power, Going Mary is as inconspicuous as a dead leaf in the rapids, as if it will disappear into the turbulent current in the next second. Brother, we can only deliver here. X2. As the vortex grew faster, the 2 huge salvage and exploration ships had to turn their rudders to get rid of the current. Otherwise, instead of 1 Going Mary ship soaring into the sky, it would become 3. Ha ha ha, thank you. Roman, going to the vortex at full speed. Facing Luffy, who gave orders with a big laugh, Roman held the rudder and galloped along the whirlpool current. Okay, Captain. Stop, I'm going back. As the ocean currents began to accelerate frantically with Going Mary wrapped in them, Usopp burst into tears on the spot. Don't say anything about the sky and ocean currents, just this giant vortex in front of you can easily bury 100 Going Mary. Give it up, Usopp. Zoro, holding his arms, glanced at the long-nosed sniper next to him. We've been caught in a vortex and can't get away. Ha ha ha, that's it. Facing this natural power, Roman also became interested. It's too late to turn now, mates. Let's go all the way to hell. I don't want it. When Chopper and Usopp were embracing each other and weeping, Nami, who was watching the recording pointer pointing to the sky in her hand, rubbed her forehead. You 2 have been so panicked that you forgot that Roman can fly. Yes, Mr. Roman can fly away with all of us. But what about Mary? Facing the recovered Chopper and Usopp, Roman steadied the rudder and slid along the swirling current. So we have to get it right the first time. Whoa whoa whoa. Suddenly, the huge vortex on the sea suddenly disappeared. The entire sea has returned to calm, but in the ocean under the boats, a terrifying shock is brewing. But before that, Zia ha 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 ha, quote. Finally caught up with you, Straw Hat Luffy. As long as you have a head worth 100 million as a gift, I can do something big. The huge raft boat approached Going Mary rapidly, which made the people on the ape and orangutan boat who had left were puzzled. Is that their friend? It's really a firm friendship to go to Changtian Haleu to say goodbye. Black Group. Hey, it's really Luffy and Zoro's wanted list. Usopp, who was holding the binoculars, looked at the portrait raised in the other's hand in shock. 100 million and 60 million inches. What about mine? Sanji patted Usopp on the shoulder nervously. Where's my wanted order? How much? I didn't see it. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Almost. Let the other party get close again. With the strength of the black regiments, they can play jumping ship and beheading tactics while everyone was still concerned about the issue of the reward order. Roman had already reached out and aimed at Blackbeard's raft. Fairy. The surging murderous aura immediately attracted the attention of the four masters of the black group. Who is that guy? Goodbye. As Roman closed his fingers, an instantaneous spread of light and heat burst out from the raft under the black group. Boom. This has nothing to do with the explosive ability of Mr. 5, and the detonation of the ammunition depot detonated by Roman. Art is. Roman, who blew the Black Regiment's ship into a ball of fireworks with one move, didn't have time to finish speaking. The ocean under his feet suddenly spit, and a giant water column with a diameter of several hundred meters suddenly rose into the sky. And Going Merry was immediately carried away by a huge amount of seawater and galloped upwards at a 90-degree angle. The huge amount of seawater is like a spear that can pierce the sky in the hands of Poseidon, the god of the sea, unruly and wild. And Going Merry is a luffy daydream boat along this spear. If it was an ordinary water column, of course, the boat couldn't fly up against the water column, but it was a tower of the sky, and the navigator on the boat was Nami. Sail now. Facing all kinds of creatures and broken ships thrown from the sky and the ocean current, Nami began to command without fear. Our boat is under the current. Behind us is an updraft from an undersea eruption. As long as it's the wind and the sea, I'll definitely have a way. Then let me help too. As Roman squatted down and put his hands on the deck, sheets of white paper flew out to wrap Going Merry, allowing him to persevere in this sky-high spectacle. And Nami also opened the rogue's extreme art in her hand. Funksha, listen to my orders. Woohoo. As for Crocodile's sandstorm skill, it appeared below Going Merry, holding the sailboat steadily up, and up. Through the clouds, through the dark cumulus emperor cloud, through the sea of clouds like the bottom of the water. Finally. Poof. The flying ship broke through all the obstacles in front of him and appeared above a sea of clouds. With the deceleration of Going Merry's parachute, the ship fell on the clouds like cotton candy, but stopped like the sea. Steady and steady, the people in the straw hats were stunned for a moment. Ha ha ha. We're sailing above the clouds. Fantastic, we made it. Sky Island exists. Roman, why are you smiling like that? Facing Nami's question, Roman shrugged. Because I never thought I'd be like this one day. Crazy. But, not bad. Zia ha ha ha, haven't fallen for so long. On a whole log in the ocean below, Blackbeard sat cross-legged on it, clapping his legs and laughing. It's so nerve-wracking, it looks like they escaped. Zia ha ha ha. So it is. Doc Q, who was holding the horse next to him, nodded. No wonder I always feel that there are many other breaths on the ship. It turned out that it was not left by the pirates killed by the captain, but the other party moved on our ship. Quote. The people present are all masters of two-color hockey. Under normal circumstances, let alone hands and feet, they can clearly perceive that someone has entered their ship, but under the cover of the residual breath of a large number of corpses. It seems that I underestimated these juniors. Blackbeard graciously admitted his failure. Now that I think about it, that Derringer is very suspicious. Maybe it's the creation of the other party's fruit ability. I've been deceived. Zia ha 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 ha. Do you still have time to say nasty things? All the prey that came to your mouth ran away. Giza's badgers, with all his limbs, can ignore these twists and turns. Captain, think of a way to catch up. Zia ha 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 ha, what's the hurry, badgers? They're not gone forever. Blackbeard is very open-minded. As long as we're on this great route, we'll meet again one day. That's right. The calm Van Oka nodded. In this world, you can meet whenever you want. Fate, like a gear turning. Ziahaha, I'm right. Really. Cough cough cough. Chapter 106 Sky Night Battle Trap. Above the endless sea of clouds. In other words, we have reached the sea of clouds. Why does the pointer still point to the sky? Facing Nami's question, Luffy smiled and looked at Roman who was sailing the boat. Roman, what's going on? Luffy has won the essence of the captain. If you are indecisive, ask Nami. If you are indecisive, ask Roman. This is the White Sea at 7,000 meters in the sky, and the Sky Island is the White Sea at 10,000 meters above. So. Understood, let's move on. Luffy stood on the bow and shouted. Keep flying, going merry. Going merry. Come, you go. By the way, rubbing his forehead, Roman decided to explain it first. Because there are other, normal, ways to get to Sky Island, it's not really isolated here. If we were attacked, that would be normal. After all, those of us who were with us were all for the legendary town of Going. What? Grab someone else's Going. Are those guys so poor? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Facing Luffy of, why not eat minced meat? Roman doesn't know how to complain. If it weren't for him and Nami, this Straw Hat group would have been too poor to open the pot. The big eater of the whole crew, and a captain who eats the black hole with food. The most ridiculous thing is that since the establishment of the Straw Hats, they have not even done a serious, pirate, business. It is simply a model of sitting on the mountain and eating the sky. Do you still have to return empty-handed when you enter Baoshan? Very well, since you said so, Luffy. Sure enough, Nami and Roman also thought of it together. Starting today, your food bills are halved. Number. Be careful, someone is coming. While controlling the paper crane to fly out for investigation, Roman created a new, white knight, to sail, while writing and drawing on the paper in his hand was distracting. Really, someone is coming. He's running on the cloud. Stop, what are you doing? Facing a guy with a curved tower shield, a totem wood carving on his face, a well-proportioned body, and a fur around his waist at a high speed. If it weren't for the bazooka in his other hand, he would be dressed in a typical jungle fighter. Destroy you. The arrivals jumped on the Going Merry deck without a word and started the fight. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji immediately greeted them, but the result was far beyond everyone's expectations. The 3 fighters of the Straw Hat Regiment fell into the bottom. This, Ghost of War, Weber is still a bit capable, at least a good player at the level of 60 million. Coupled with his perverted HP and unique weapons, he can even draw a tie with the current Luffy. It's here. At this moment, there was a loud bang in the sky. A knight riding a flying bird swooped down and shot the jungle warrior with a bazooka away. The jungle warrior obviously knew each other, jumped off Going Merry without hesitation, turned around and flew away above the sea of clouds. There is a feeling of aggression like fire, turning like wind. Saved. Nami first wiped the cold sweat from her forehead, and then reacted to look in the direction of the rudder. What are you doing, Roman? Why don't you help? That's not the enemy ahem. Roman, who almost slipped, raised the notebook in his hand to change the subject. I'm working on our Sky Island workout intensive schedule. For a moment, the whole Straw Hat group felt sore. I can't do it, I have a disease that will kill me if I exercise. Why do you still need to exercise when you go to Sky Island? I'm out of breath. Cough cough, Blue Sea people. He was dressed in knight armor, wearing a red cloak and holding a knight's spear. Under the helmet of the knight who had just driven away the jungle warrior, there was an old face. He had to cough to remind the group of Straw Hats who had no sense of danger in front of him. My name is Sky Knight, Gonfur. The reason you feel powerless now is because of high-altitude hypoxia. This is the 7,000-meter high, White Sea. When the Blue Sea people get here, they will be exhausted and unable to move. Puff puff. Luffy, who had done dozens of push-ups with 2 index fingers, got up. Fine, I'm getting used to it. Indeed, it's much better than before. Zoro, who also squatted and pulled out an afterimage, moved his neck. Are you still human? Ahem, in short, I'm a freelance mercenary. The old knight had to forcibly bring the topic back. If you are not good at air combat, you will suffer in this sea area, and you will be killed by those gorillas just now. 5 million IK, one post, I will come to rescue you. Stunned. It can't be any less, we have to live. So forget it, Roman. Nami turned to look at Roman, who was still thinking about writing and drawing. Oh. IK is the currency unit of Sky Island, and the conversion to the Bailey we use is 1. That is to say, the cost of the Sky Knight's dispatch is 500 Bailey once. So convenient ahem, expensive. It can make Nami feel cheap, showing that this old knight is really honest. At least he is also a master with 5,000 bounty strength, only 500 Baileys for one shot. If the following people know about it, I am afraid that the soul will burst with laughter. Are you really begging for rice with a golden rice bowl? Just grab it and there will be someone sending money to the door while sitting. Wait, didn't you come all the way from the top of the west? From Xinshaochun. The old knight named Gonfol finally noticed the anomaly of the ship. You should at least pass through 1 or 2 islands and have a certain understanding of the humanities here. Unless we came up on the sky current. Facing Luffy's answer, the old knight looked with admiration on his face. It came up by that ancient method. I never imagined that there are still such reckless brave people today. I knew there must be a normal route. Nami was already in tears, feeling that since she got on this ship, everything along the way would become more difficult. Ding! A whistle was put on the deck by the old knight, who then turned and jumped on the big bird beside him. The so-called one whistle is to blow the whistle once, and I will come down from the sky to help you. It should be a greeting to all the warriors. After finishing speaking, the old knight rode his own big bird. No, it should be a spotted Pegasus that ate the horse fruit, and Going Merry entered. Very good, the environment of high altitude, lack of oxygen, and the unique heart network, it's time to strengthen. Please, Roman. Nami spread her hands. It's rare that we have achieved the feat of leaping over the Sky Island, so don't always think about improving your strength or something. Be happy and relax, okay? Well, I'm probably used to it. Roman shrugged. No way, if I don't improve my strength quickly, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep up with the speed at which powerful enemies appear. He does not mean that. Usopp's face froze next to him, in terms of strength. By the way, we still don't know where to go. Faced with this cold-field question, Luffy immediately used his intelligence. Just use this whistle to get the old man to come back and ask him. Gotcha, ruthless iron hand. Nami and Usopp, who grabbed Luffy one after another, were furious, pulling Luffy, who was trying to blow the whistle, into Usopp's shape. This is a life-saving tool in an emergency. Yeah, what if the masked savage attacks again? Just when there was a commotion on the deck, Going Merry had already started slowly. Roman, is this? Oh, I have found the entrance to the upper floors. It's still Roman. Nami, who rubbed her forehead, snatched the whistle from Luffy's hand. This thing must not be left with you, or it will be used immediately. The paper cranes flying far away in the sky had a panoramic view of the sea of clouds, allowing Roman to find his target. As Going Merry moved forward all the way above the sea of clouds and spared a cloud mountain, a huge arch appeared in front of everyone. It says the gates of heaven. Are we dead? Ha ha ha, the kingdom of heaven is fun. Don't say such bad words. There's someone over there. Click, click, click. In a series of flashes, the old woman holding the camera below the giant gate looked towards Going Merry. Are you here for sightseeing or for war? 100 million IK tolls per person, even if you don't pay. Brush. A stack of Bailey was swung by Roman and flew to the old woman with a camera. 80,000 Baileys, or 800 million IK. All right. No. Then please have the express shrimp take us up. Okay. As a huge shrimp suddenly appeared under the sea of clouds and put Going Merry on his head, the two pincers fixed the boat, and then galloped along the giant cloud road circling behind the door. The old woman who was the doorkeeper snorted in disgust. Damn, to meet a guy who knows Sky Island so well. Roman, just now. As I said, although Sky Island is a legend, in the first half of the Great Route, it is real and recorded for many forces. If we didn't pay the fee just now, it would be regarded as a violation the law of Sky Island, and once we go up we have huge fines and fights. Quote. Oh, everyone nodded in unison. Learning is obsolete, learning is obsolete. Well, though with Luffy's temper and Sky Island's rules, it's only a matter of time before you get into conflict with the other party, but after going up, exercise for an hour to get used to the environment. Chapter 107 Recall the past tragedy. Wow fly. Going Mary, who was galloped by the express shrimp, carrying a Luffy, flew out of the channel and came to a new sea of clouds. As far as the eye can see, there are beaches, woods, and the outlines of buildings in the distance. Without a doubt, this is Sky Island. Ha, we succeeded. Very good, let's warm up for an hour first. Boom boom boom. Luffy, who was already excited and transformed into a figure, was frantically rising and falling on the deck, and the mere hour of exercise was no longer in his eyes. Fitness King, I'm determined. Fine, swing your sword 10,000 times before relaxing. I just want to fish. Hey, I always feel that the gap between what we are now and the definition of pirate is getting bigger and bigger. In any case, everyone in the Straw Hats knew that Roman's training plan was for everyone's good. So the spit is returned to the spit, and an hour is spent in sweating rain, followed by puff, puff, puff. A group of people scrambled to jump into the sea of clouds, which was close to the shore. And although Sky Island's sea of clouds will also restrain those who are capable, but after all, it is not as domineering as seawater. During this time, Luffy and others who were tortured by the seastone bracers every day could still bear it. Ha, the beach here is also soft. Luffy has turned into a bouncing monkey running around. Is this the beach? It's the first time I've seen it. It's sad to say, Chopper has been on the ship until now, either fighting or on the way to fight. Haven't had a good experience of what a beach is. These guys are nothing to worry about. He said so, but Sanji had already taken off his shoes and jumped into the sea of clouds together, obviously enjoying it. Hey, where is this anchor going? Is there a bottom under the clouds? Facing Zoro's complaints, Roman had already turned out a pair of wings and carried Nami to the shore. Just down here, don't worry, the dead bodies of the Sky Island cloud creatures are forming the offshore seabed. Looking at the Straw Hats who went ashore to fight, Robin turned to Zoro next to him. Aren't you going? Well, I'll go. I never thought about it before. Although he still had a gentle and intellectual face as usual, the breeze caressed Robin's face, which seemed extraordinarily natural. Sailing and landing can also be adventures. Marine won't be chasing here either. Finally I can relax. Facing Nami, who stretched her curves beside her, Roman also rarely lay on the soft beach, to let her mind go, without thinking about anything. Because, what a wonderful world without Shichibukai, without Shirosen Admiral. Although this Sky Island is not to say that there are no strong people, whether it is the 4 priests on the Angel Island side or the elite warriors on the Sandia side, in Roman's opinion, it is a passable one. People at this stage of strength are no longer a strong enemy to the Straw Hats. After all, it is embarrassing to say that it is the enemy of the Straw Hats if it is not more than a few levels. And the only master here is the ruler of the entire Sky Island, God Enel. The strongest, Guro no Mi, Rumble Fruit, ability in Logia, on this Sky Island, which does not even have the strength of hundreds of millions, can develop the use of fruit ability that is close to the ceiling of combat effectiveness. At the same time, after combining with the fruit ability, it can cover and monitor an island's heart net, that is, observation hockey. If it wasn't for Enel's lack of training against the strong at all, he would definitely be one of the ceilings of combat effectiveness in this world. But Luffy beat him. Not to mention the use of plasma electromagnetic ionization, it is very unreasonable to restrain the devil fruit in this world. To say that there is no injury means no injury, which is why Roman can relax and rest. If Luffy couldn't win against each other, it would be futile to tie them all together. A thunder greets an island, it is simply a humanoid, Pluto. Crocodile looked envious and left tears of remorse. Taking a 10,000 steps back, Enel's purpose is to knock Shandola, who was accidentally washed up by the sea currents, into the sky 10,000 meters high, and fall back to the blue ocean below. Earth returns to Earth, people return to people, and gods return to gods. Then go to rule the infinite continent in your heart, that is, the moon. So as long as he wasn't killed on the spot, it's a big deal. Roman dragged the Straw Hats to play a high-altitude downhill. Anyway, with Enel's temper, he wouldn't go back and kill a few ants. So the Roman summary of the Sky Island plot is: Weber, it is our duty to recast the glory of Shandola. Gon Foer, say, I will protect everything in Sky Island. Enel, because I'm the god I deserve. Straw Hats, as long as you don't get killed, you'll be successful. The current situation is the so-called unscrupulous situation, and there is no point in any means other than believing in Luffy's recklessness. So Roman simply gave up thinking. After the brain was emptied, scenes of memories flooded up. It's been 3 years, from the very beginning of panic, holding a knife to sleep, and walking against the wall, to the first time I participated in a battle, the first time I went crazy and chopped my opponent to pieces, and the first time I calmly cut open the pirate throat that provokes yourself. At first, he didn't dare to escape, because the traitor's fate was to be fed by Captain Yingguang's sword through his heart. Later, with his frantic training, he gradually became accustomed to the daily life of killing, used to speak with a knife, and was used to the fear in the eyes of others. And afraid. When he had the strength to protect himself in front of Captain Yingguang, he found that he was already used to the life of a pirate. Without that devil fruit, maybe Roman is still the battle captain of the Silver Light Pirates. If there is no Luffy, Nami, Zoro may be the second, Blackbeard, is already plotting some horrible conspiracy. No, from what Roman knew of himself, he must have done something more maddening than Blackbeard. Because of the careless traversers, they are the most unscrupulous group of people. It is not unreasonable for so many garbage treasures to kill the whole family in one sentence. Katakana middle dot. Click, click. I can't bite. Luffy, who was holding a pumpkin-shaped fruit, turned to look to the other side, habitually looking for the omnipotent. R.O. Snapped. Holding Luffy's neck with one hand and forcibly dragging him away, Sanji waved impatiently to Chopper and Usopp as he dragged him. Go, go, play while you go. Although he didn't quite understand it, Chopper and Usopp rolled aside mellowly to play. Roman was left lying on the beach with his head resting on Nami's lap. Frowning in sleep is not cute at all. Nami gently stroked Roman's forehead, trying to drive away his troubles. Roman, you seem stronger than anyone, but you're the loneliest. Luffy cared about his brother, and his grandpa who kept beating his mouth. Zoro has a master, Usopp has a childhood sweetheart, Sanji has an old chef, Chopper has a wife, and he has his own sister, and there are a group of warm and lovely villagers in their respective hometowns. These are the gecko in the heart of the Straw Hats, the lights that they will never give up in the face of adversity. Only Roman. He never mentioned any relatives and friends, as if these things didn't exist at all. Even the happy past in his mouth was obviously nothing but emptiness. Such a person Nami has seen many times. Those pirates who have lost their homes, relatives, friends and everything, only have chaos and death in their eyes. That is the most dangerous kind of person, even ordinary pirates are reluctant to approach, because this kind of person will destroy everything around him while destroying himself. Speaking of which, that Nicole Robin. Nami looked up at the intellectual beauty who was sitting under the tree in the distance, reading carefully, although she and Roman looked both reliable. But in fact, she and Roman are the two most unreliable, people in the straw hats. Once they are in a desperate situation, they are the ones who are the easiest to get into the horns. All are rolling in the dark, all have lost everything, all have no fear of death. Not because of how brave they are, but because they don't care about death. It's like Roman challenged the sand crocodile. In Nami's opinion, will Roman's shrewdness not consider the possibility of his failure? Of course it was considered. The message on The Art of Thieves is the best proof. It's just Roman don't care. Although Roman often said that he was afraid of death, Nami knew that he was essentially a person who ignored death. It is not the warrior's life to death, but the indifference of the owner. Roman, you rescued me from Arlong's shadow. So how am I going to redeem you? P.S. Well, things like emotional lines. If only I could write sweet essays. The traveler itself is a loner abandoned by the world, so I wrote Luffy to teach Roman what a companion is, and Nami to teach Roman what a relative is. Of course, the old rules. If everyone thinks this chapter doesn't work, I'll go back and remake it. This is not abuse, absolutely not. Chapter 108 Forced Crime Sky Island Trials. He he he. He he he. Mr. Roman. What's the meaning? When I wake up, my dignity is gone. Is it my Roman who can't lift the knife? Or are the three of you floating again? After checking that he wasn't getting a turtle painted on his face and a note on his back, Roman can only attribute it to Luffy, Usopp and Chopper's lack of training so they have the energy to play tricks again. Originally, they wanted to wait for their physical fitness to become stronger before carrying out the planned upgrade, but now it seems that they see and wait, right? Very good, very good. Usopp and Chopper froze behind their backs, and hurriedly restrained their expressions and sat down. Usopp is an idiot. On the other side, as Luffy let go of the shell in his hand, his own voice came out. Usopp is an idiot. What? Even the shells looked down on Usopp. Snapped. It's your own voice. It's what you just said. It's a yinbei that can be recorded, explained a gentle girl with blonde hair and double braids next to him, watching Usopp and Luffy sparring into a ball. Usually we use it to play music. This is an ordinary family next to the Cloud Coast. The owner is a middle-aged man named Paigeia, and his daughter Canis. That is, the girl who was explaining these various shells to the Straw Hats. Our Sky Island civilization is basically built on shells, and various applications for storing shells. Nice one. Roman immediately entered the thinking mode of strengthening combat power. Sky Island's shells are definitely a convenient tool that can greatly improve combat power. For example, almost all Sky Island fighters use the wind shell that is equipped on skateboards and sliding shoes to move quickly, the slash shell that can absorb slashes and cause slash damage, the slash shell that can absorb the impact and then release it, shock shell. And besides, cloud shell, which needs to be used in Baibaihi, other shells can be used normally even in the blue sea below. Certain shells in particular, such as fenugreek, a type of fenugreek, but capable of blasting stronger winds. Perfect for short acceleration and solo flight. How powerful and precious is the ability to fly? Just ask those who are capable of falling into the water. Roman, why are you? Nami next to her was speechless, and she knew that Roman was thinking about things like strengthening her combat power, but I can't rest assured to play, Waiba, when you look like this. It's outrageous that you can play something that others need to practice for 10 years in a few minutes. Usopp complained that he couldn't, so what about everyone cooking together? It's no fun if you two are so strong. Waiba or something, we'll take one back and play with it. But before that, the powerful shells are basically in the two camps of Sky Island, the priests led by God Enel, and the Shandia warriors. Not to mention Sandia, Enel will definitely get some. Roman, back to the soul. Where did you say that? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. We just talked about the gods here and the holy places where the gods are. Nami explained to Roman in a low voice. look at Luffy's eagerness to try. He is probably going to sneak away to some holy place. Be confident and get rid of most. Most of today's time has passed, although under Roman's caution and attention, the Straw Hats have not yet violated the law here, so there is no bullshit trial. But in the paper crane observation released by Roman, a group of people with white berets were already creeping close to here. That is the team called White Beret here, which is roughly equivalent to a police-like organization, and the purpose of coming here. Officials want the people to rebel, and the people have to rebel. With just a few excuses, you can set a trap for the Straw Hats. Not to mention that with Luffy's character, he doesn't even need any advanced skills to make him do it. At that time, the law of this place will be a dead end. Sent directly to the Holy Land to be judged. Yep. Anyway, it's something that can't be avoided. Roman has been mentally prepared since he went to Sky Island. Go, Luffy. It's getting late, let's go back to going merry. But just when Usopp was about to say something, Luffy stood up and patted his pants. That's right, old man, excuse you. Let's go first. Huh, dinner. No, let's go back to the boat to eat. With Luffy grinning and waving goodbye, the others also got up and left one after another, which made the middle-aged and blonde girl who were the masters embarrassed. No need to send. After the group walked some distance toward the beach, Luffy looked at Roman with a serious face. Roman, have you found anything? There's a group of people approaching us, Roman said, raising his chin to the woods beside him. And their purpose is to lure or force us to criminal, and be tried by the laws of this island. That's why you asked us all to leave, so that the uncle's house would be implicated. Serious Luffy nodded, then pointed to the woods next to him with a speechless expression. But if you're talking about the perverts, do you underestimate us too? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Blue Sea people, is that ship yours? A group of crawling-going soldiers wearing white berets, vests, and camouflage pants stood in front of Luffy and the others. The leading scarred man pointed righteously at Luffy, Roman and the others. Yes. The empty fish tied beside the boat was also hunted by you. Yes. According to the sentence of heaven, law, you have committed the crime of hunting rare animals, which is a Class 9 crime. Please accept the punishment, but it seems that you want to resist. Yes. What else is there to say? The other party is trying to find fault, and the Straw Hat group is not a low-pitched person. Sudden convulsion does not count. There is no doubt that it is a real PK, the result. This group of soldiers was unexpectedly weak, and Roman didn't even think about whether to do it or not. It was already overturned by Luffy Zoro Sanji with 3 punches and 2 legs. He. However, the officer lying on the ground was not angry but laughed instead. The attack on the police, White Bailey force, is serious. This is a second-degree crime and will be punished by a trial of the gods. You. All right. Roman waved his hand to interrupt the other party's mouth cannon. Anyway, he had expected this result. Let's go back to the ship right now. If you don't have any trials, please arrange them quickly. Not to mention the beret police officers who had just been knocked over, and even the Straw Hats looked at each other in dismay. However, out of trust in Roman, everyone returned to going merry first, and then. Well, I know what you're going to ask, wait for me to slap you again. In the face of others, Roman had to release a lot of information in one breath. Simply put, this Sky Island is very hostile to outsiders. Actually, this is quite normal. After all, there is Shangela, the town of Going, and most of the people who dare to go up to this 10,000-meter altitude are lawless pirates we don't count. Strictly speaking, our profession it's more or less the adventurer. Quote. Blame the red-haired MLM boss. A good Marine King gave him a lame bluff. I don't know how Luffy will feel when he recalls that Shanks of the three-color hockey was cut off by the Lord of the Sea. Anyway, the police here will use their pretexts to force the Landhigh people, that is, us people, to break the law. Then they will be handed over to the so-called priests for trial. The priests are the powerhouses under the throne here, whether they kill for fun or kill chickens and monkeys. Anyway, we are their target now. This. Although Roman's explanation was simple and easy to understand, everyone was still a little unacceptable. It is obviously like a fairyland sky island, and I met a kind uncle and a gentle blonde girl, but when I turned around, I found that this was a place that deliberately lured people into committing crimes and then killed them. A little bit of fantasy collapse. Okay, the explanation is over, we can just wait for the trial, obediently. Can't you run away first? Facing Usopp's proposal, Roman pointed his thumb back, asked the two of them. Trial. Luffy with eyes full of stars. Going. Nami's eyes turned golden. A tearful Usopp gave up on the treatment. Boom. At this moment, the boat under everyone's feet slammed into the ground, and a huge, super express shrimp, put Going Merry on his head, and the two pincers grabbed it tightly and hurried all the way. Kill this giant shrimp. Don't panic, it's the transportation that takes us to the trial site. P.S. Ask for a ticket every day. Chapter 109 trends the eve of the decisive battle. Ha ha ha, the trial, I'm really looking forward to it. Luffy laughed while standing on the bow of the boat that was galloping against the super express shrimp, who didn't know he thought he was going to the banquet. Going or not going is not important, mainly because I can't worry about Roman. Nami's eyes lit up, and sure enough, both women and dragons like shiny metals. Only. What does this have to do with me? Roman rolled his eyes and looked at the rapidly approaching island ahead. Different from the Angel Island, where the coast was all made of white clouds and cloud bricks, compressed into clouds, this is a real Earth. Island of the Gods, Sanctuary. Roman looked at the island with the huge forest in front of him. He also has a name that we are familiar with, Shandora, the township of Going. It is also half of what used to be Jaya Island. Listen, the four priests who preside over the trials here all have a skill called Heart Net, which is what we call observation hockey. Not only can they predict the opponent's attack, they can even pass the Heart Net. Passing information, even hearing conversations from far away, etc. Wait a minute. Nami raised her hand and asked, Roman, do you mean that the other party already knew of our arrival and even heard our conversation? That's what it means, nodded, which is why Roman said Sky Island was a no plan. The so-called strategy is nothing more than three factors: the weather, the location, and the people. However, on this Sky Island, Enel has all the advantages in one. Add in his unparalleled power and observation hockey monitoring an island, and any plan is bullshit. Unless you do'nt go to Sky Island in the first place, but then you will face the pursuit of Blackbeard. Well, you're pretty much saying, we're coming and you're all ready. Nami rubbed her forehead, thinking with her knees, she knew that the other party would be ready. Don't panic. Roman waved his hand, then looked at the Straw Hats. Everyone, it's time to test your cultivation achievements. After playing the game of hiding puppets for so long, don't pull your crotch when you meet a real person. Everyone, test you don't. In a village hidden in the sea of clouds, a little girl named Aisha sat on the ground dejectedly. Today, she secretly ran to the sanctuary to steal soil, and when she came back, she ran into their village's big warrior, war ghost, Weber. Not to mention that the soil was confiscated, it was also severely scolded. Fortunately, the image that Elsa recorded near Sanctuary Island seemed to attract the attention of the soldiers in the circle of tents. These Blue Sea people. Looking at the Straw Hats who were confident and ready to challenge the trial in the image, the jungle warriors in the tent were speechless. Say these guys are ignorant, but they are obviously very familiar with the priest's most powerful ability, the Heart Net. It's just called observation hockey, in their mouths. Say these guys are strong, but a group of people doesn't look like any strong and sturdy fighters. One or two are thin and short. The normal body type is the third-level disability to enter the Great Root, and the slogan of beating the flying priests is beyond their own power. Aisha, can you hear their voices? How strong? A black-haired female fighter patiently asked. Among this group of jungle fighters with wildness and killing written on their faces, she is simply so eccentric that she doesn't fit in with the group. The little girl surrounded by this group of jungle warriors is called Aisha, a genius born with the ability of HeartNet. Not only can it hear the voice of creatures from a long distance, but it can even distinguish the strength and anger of creatures. It's very strong. The little girl turned to look at a mohawk man wearing sunglasses. Stronger than you, Mantis. Damn kid, what do you mean? You actually used me as a combat unit. Compared to me. A wild voice sounded, and sitting on the main seat was a sturdy man with a savage pattern on his face and shoulders, holding a bazooka and smoking a cigarette. The great warrior, ghost of war, Weber. The most powerful warrior in the entire Shandia Union village. Am I among those blue ocean people who can compare with me? Facing the question of the great warrior's arrogance, the little girl Aisha, who was surrounded by the middle, was hesitant to say anything. Do you want to say that there are three voices? Oh. Even if the little girl didn't answer, the expression on her face still clearly betrayed her heart, causing the surrounding jungle warriors to yell angrily. Aisha, what do you mean? Weber's strength, you haven't. Shut up. The half-tattooed warrior stood up. It's better this way. Since these Blue Sea people are so confident and have some ability, let them go to the front. If we can kill one or two priests, then the ancestors will bless us. Everyone is ready. We will set off tomorrow morning. If he can really kill one or two priests, the chance that Shandia has been waiting for may finally come. Take off Enel's head. Take back the hometown 400 years ago. An island called Sanctuary. Higher up, there is a shrine. Why did God call us? 4 priests came to the shrine. They were, the tattooed samurai, empty animal husband, Om with a cloud knife, the sky knight, Shira with a knight's spear and a flying cap, the great enlightenment, sadly, and the serious but funny, Korean guard captain, Guy Daz. Gate of opening. As the gate of the shrine opened, the 4 of them suddenly posed for parry. Let the fat, magic soldier, Shan, who came out of its side. 4 lords, please remain humble before God. In front of me, the sky knight, Shira, who stepped into the shrine, pointed to the large empty shrine. Then you say, where is God? Crackling. Before he finished speaking, the figure flashed, like a thunderbolt, like an electric light breaking through the sky. In an instant, 4 priests with HeartNet, that is, observation hockey, were attacked at the same time. Lightning shuttled through them, and at the same time knocked all 4 of them to the ground. They meandered and flew into the shrine. I am. One wears a white headscarf, with long earlobes and earrings. The upper body is bare, with 4 Guyu thunder drums on the back, a going bracelet on the hands, bloomers on the lower body, bare feet, and rings on the toes. The man leaned lazily on the bed of the shrine. God. Am I not right here? Maybe it would be awkward for others to say such a thing, but it was so natural for this man to call himself a god in a flat voice. God. You are. Why are you teasing us? You urgently called us to. Facing the 4 priests kneeling on one knee, the man who claimed to be a god, that is, the ruler of this sky island, Enel took an apple from the plate of the maid next to him and took a bite. Ha ha ha, I'm so bored. Sit down first. You don't seem to pay attention to those Blue Sea people who came up today. Enel casually glanced at the 4 men who were sitting cross-legged in front of him. But do you know that those Blue Ocean people are already assigning who will kill you? Arrogant. The monkey who didn't know there was a cloud outside the cloud. My survival, 0% trial of iron will keep them coming and going. The 4 priests were furious. They were the priests who judged sinners. Now, there are Blue Sea people who regard them as prey and want to challenge their majesty. Tolerable or unbearable? They'll leave from the central altar tomorrow. At the same time, the warriors of Shandia will be waiting for the opportunity to attack. Leaning lazily on the shrine bed, Enel took another bite of the apple. In fact, the Ark, Proverbs, has been made. It's time to make a comprehension on this island. As soon as these words came out, except for the 4 confidants of priests and the god soldier, the rest of the shrine's faces were blank. Tomorrow, it doesn't matter where the trial is. It can be done by anyone because I'm going. Go to the dream world. Chopper. I picked up garlic, walnuts, bananas. Zoro. I picked up frogs and mice. Sanji. Very good, throw them all in the pot. Hey, wait a minute. Nami turned back angrily. I seem to have heard food that I can't accept just now. Hey, don't women eat garlic? It's a rat, asshole. On an altar-style building in the middle of the forest, a full-staffed regiment of straw hats is camping. With their strength, as long as there is no inexplicable division of troops, ordinary beast disasters have long been ignored. Come here, Zoro, do me a favor. Hey, my knife is not for this. Zoro, who was holding the iron pot with 2 knives, was speechless, but at this time, shut up, or you will eat raw mice. Hold back. Quarrel with the cook is the worst at this time. Roman, about going, location. On the other side, Robin flipped through the book in his hand, while inadvertently skimming the other 2 who were holding a paper book, conversing. Most of them were scavenged by that god to make flying machines. The largest remaining going bell should have been rushed to a high place. Anyway, the Sky Island is not big. Is that clock really as big as you say it is? A dozen stories high. After taking the paper written by Nami, Roman silently shook the white paper in his hand. The words on it disappeared immediately, and then changed into a bunch of new words. I'm talking about several floors. Don't increase the size at will. Forget it, going bell or something. Let's talk when we win. Guro no mi, rumble fruit, Enel this time, I can only rely on Luffy. P.S. Continue to ask for tickets. Chapter 110 plan failed, unexpected confusion. The next day. It worked. A bird is hopping on Roman's shoulders, looking like man and nature, or in harmony, but if you look closely, it's fake. You 3. Facing the disgusting Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper, who was simply joking. Roman has a black line, and he is proud of his ability to be scolded by others, but it is unbearable to be scolded by your straw hat 3 fools. That's because you knew in advance that the bird was fake, and then carefully observed its flaws. It's like detective novels directly know who the culprit is before deducing the crime process. Paper dance, camouflage scout bird. This is the ability developed by Roman on the basis of paper dance, paper crane, and at the same time possesses the detection ability and camouflage ability of paper crane. This is also the reason why Roman has been insisting on using and exercising paper cranes, just for this follow-up skill. After all, the enemies the Straw Hats will encounter in the future will only get stronger and more perverted. Just like the sniper Van Oka of the Black Corps, he killed all the small white paper cranes flying in the sky. If it was made into something like a paper plane bullying the enemy would be blind. Palola. A freshly baked paper bird flapped its wings and flew into the surrounding forest. No matter what kind of battle, intelligence was a crucial item. One side had a full view, and the other was fighting in the dark. As long as the strength is similar, it is absolutely crushing. Hey, the problem is that it's a pity that the power gap is too big. Enel is willing to go to the sea. It will immediately start with hundreds of millions of bounties. If you fight with the masters again, there is no doubt that it will be a new ceiling for combat effectiveness. It's a pity. All he wanted was to go home. That's right, whether it's Enel, the inhabitants of Angel Island, or the Sandians-like jungle warriors, those humans with degenerate wings were once moonmen. That's why Enel is obsessed with ruling the infinite land in his dreams, the moon. By the way, Shandia's jungle warriors were mechanics when they were on the moon. The mild-mannered Angel Islanders were actually the warriors who led the war. Enel and his destroyed hometown were designers. There are rumors that Black Wings, the energy worker, the ember of the three plagues under Kaido's seat. So strictly speaking, Enel's job is a two-knife scientist. If you don't believe me, ask who made the Ark Proverbs. No matter how strange the shape is, the going ship is indeed Enel's creation, and it can perfectly match his fruit ability. This hands-on ability. Thinking of the sturdiness of scientists in this world gave Roman a headache. Think about those guys with the title of scientist, Enel in front of me, Sanji's father, Caesar. When will the most mysterious Vegapunk come out to beat the three admiral, draw the four emperors, and Roman is not at all wouldn't be surprised. Only. If you say you want to go home, and no one will stop you when you want to rule the moon. Why bother blowing up Sky Island before leaving? Even if you were bullied in your hometown, it has nothing to do with Angel Island, right? What a wayward guy. Why are you all looking at me? Luffy looked at everyone blankly, and only the honest man Chopper answered. We all thought Roman was talking about you. Well, speaking of willfulness, Luffy is a emperor level of willfulness. This is also the reason why Roman did not consider the option of escape. Let's go. Roman led the way forward, turning around and admonishing others as he walked. Don't be scattered. As long as we don't encounter that god, we can take care of other issues. Roman, who paused for a while, took a deep breath before asking the people behind him. Have any of you seen Zoro? Shake your head. X6. This. Don't panic. Roman forced himself to calm down. Zoro's strength can't be killed silently, it should be just a simple Luna. Hey, that's a nice stick. Just as Roman was about to mobilize the surrounding scout birds to find Zoro who was left behind, Luffy enthusiastically reached out to pull a vine next to him, and then brush. The foot slipped, and the whole person slid all the way down and disappeared into the bushes under the hillside in the sound of this call out. Just when Roman didn't know what expression to use, there was a piercing sound from the sky, and a cannonball quickly enlarged in Roman's eyes. Before he was ready to intercept, the cannonball that was rapidly rolling in midair started to redden, crack, and mad fake. Be careful. At the same time as he shouted, Roman only had time to pull Nami next to him to protect him, and the booming explosion sounded in the forest. Let this cannon sound be the horn of our attack. At the edge of the forest, Webb, the leader of the jungle warriors, was completely unaware that his shot just hit the friendly army. He turned his head and looked solemnly at the soldiers behind him. Those who are not enlightened stay. Only those who have to step on the corpse of their comrade can come with me. Because today I'm going to take off Enel's head. Going. Quote. Shish. One by one, the jungle fighters stepped into the forest with Luffy galloping into the forest with their skateboard shoes equipped with wind shells. Since no one backs down, let's fight to the end. Don't hesitate, don't be afraid, the spirits of our ancestors will shelter us. Retake our home. Has anyone gone down yet? Facing Enel's question, the secretary next to him nodded respectfully. The 4 priests, plus the 50 god soldiers led by Lord God Soldier, have all set off. The bearded secretary continued cautiously, God, please be blunt. It's just a mere Shandia. Is it necessary to go to war with a few Blue Ocean people? Yeah, haha, it's okay, the celebration should be a little more lively. Enel, who was lying on the bed, motioned to the maid next to him to peel the banana for him, and then continued to ask the secretary. Our 4 priests plus 50 god soldiers, the chief priest is included in the 50 plus me, the man who claimed to be a god moved his fingers at will. The other party is 20 Shandia warriors, plus 8 Blue Sea people. A total of 83 people. Enel, who took a bite of the banana, raised his chin to the bearded priest. How many people do you think will be left on this island in 3 hours? This. Just say it. In the face of the wanton God, the bearded secretary had to bite the bullet and analyze. It goes without saying that our 4 priests, 50 god soldiers are also good players, and they will never be easily defeated. But since the other party dares to come, he must be prepared, so I think there will be about 50 people left in the end. Yeah, ha ha ha. Facing the judgment of the bearded secretary, Enel, who claims to be a god, laughed and swallowed the Vice Admiral banana, throwing the banana peel aside. Like the priests, you underestimate those blue sea people. And you also ignore the brutality of fighting. Enel, who was 2.6 meters tall, stood up after speaking, and with the 4 hooks and thunder drums behind him, he was also the standard, admiral height. Let me tell you, in 3 hours. A palm stretched out. On this island, there are only 5 people. That's right, Enel said, this island. Of course also wrapped around these servants and clerks. That is. Crackling. On his open palm, 5 crackles exploded, and the lightning of the electric python and silver snake intertwined and wandered suddenly shot out, with an unparalleled dazzling white light, rushing towards all directions with overwhelming momentum. The meandering electric light spreads to every corner of this shrine, intertwined into a white net of thunder. Boom, boom, boom. As the charred servants and clerks fell down, the man named Enel had neither joy nor sorrow on his face. God no longer needs your service. Because. God, I'm going home. Clap la la. A white paper ball spread out, revealing Roman and Nami inside. It's just that Roman's face is very ugly now. Who threw the cannonball? No, the cannonball. Although the meaning of this kind of attack being stunt by Roman is more than the actual damage, but more importantly. Anyone hurt? No. No. I'm fine. With 3 replies, Roman covered his forehead with one hand and looked at the sky speechlessly. In just over 10 seconds, the 3 members of the Straw Hats disappeared before they even started fighting. In this team fight, don't fight. Hoo hoo hoo. A snake with a head as large as Going Mary was also aroused by the explosion, and its body was just rolling over where the Straw Hats were. ITM. Ah, monster. Wait. Transformed into a reindeer, Chopper, who was so chaotic that he ran wild with his 2 hind hooves, was so frightened that he disappeared in a blink of an eye, making Roman's outstretched hand not even put down. You dead snake. With a wave of his hand, the flying paper formed a huge machete and slashed at the neck of the giant snake that appeared. Let the giant snake nicknamed Lord of the Sky roar, but Roman also frowned. So hard. As expected of a giant snake that has lived for 400 years, these scales are really. Forget it, let's retreat first. Roman picked up Nami next to him and waved his white wings to start a strategic shift. His goal is not this giant snake, and spending time with the other party is just a waste of time. The melee has begun, although Roman can protect Nami, but Usopp and Chopper, and Robin, etc. Think carefully. Whether you are a little nervous, Usopp's escape speed and natural strong luck. Chopper is not mature enough, but his strength is there, not to mention Robin. The underground society has been rolling for 10 times. People for a few years, they are no longer weak. Nami, where are we going now? Go to going. Seeing a string of exclamation marks appearing on the white paper in Nami's hand, Roman twitched the corners of his mouth. Okay. Now that the navigator has spoken, let's go find the going bell first. Even if you can't take it with you, you can get some oil and water. As for everyone in the Straw Hats, you will be blessed. X6. Of course it's impossible. At the same time that Roman held Nami and started to lift off, the scout birds also scattered to look for other people's traces. Chapter 111 Scene Defects Pillar of Going. Just when Roman was holding Nami and flying high, he was the first to collect the spoils. The battle in the forest below has begun. Boom. A cannonball slammed into his face, but Shira, who was riding the giant bird, snorted coldly, and the 3-footed bird who sat down, cross, legged, fluttered his wings elegantly and easily dodged the cannonball. The long spear in Shira's hand instantly picked up a Shandia warrior. Although he was barely defended by the opponent's shield, the lance in Shira's hand spewed a column of fire, which instantly drowned the warrior in the flames. Everyone be careful, this is the Celestial Knight, Shira. He's in an area with a cloud of rope that's hard to see with the naked eye, but extremely tough. Don't get close to each other. Call. However, in response to a flame of more than 10 meters from the Shandia warrior, Shira, one of the 4 priests, sat down on the giant bird, cross-legged, and spewed a long flame across the battlefield, forcing the warriors to withdraw and fly back. But something like this. There is a flaw. The giant bird under the crotch swooped, and the lance in Shira's hand was like a cold light, instantly piercing the stomach of a Shandia warrior who was dodging the flames. Just as the opponent was struggling to attack, the fighter was thrown out with a single swing of the spear. Damn, there's rope clouds all around, and we're down here a lot. Boom. Bram, the leader of the Shandia warriors with dual guns, raised his hand and fired 2 flash bombs. The violent white light flashed everyone's eyes. He tried to stop Shira's sight, but in the white light came the roar of another leader, a mantis with a Mohican hairstyle with sunglasses. Don't use glitter. Puff. Ha ha ha, fool, you weaklings without heart net are trying to restrict me in such a way that everyone can't see. With Shira's ridicule and the sound of his body being pierced in the white light, it means that another Shandia warrior has fallen. I'm not stupid, but Bram, who shot, was as calm as ever. It's you who's in charge. In the vast white light, a figure swooped towards Shira at high speed, with a shield and a bazooka in the other. It was their leader, Weber. Do you think I didn't notice that? However, Shira just snorted coldly, and his heart net had already noticed the great warrior of Shandia who was attacking at high speed. His self-confidence made him stab at the opponent without dodging. However, because his eyes were shattered, he didn't immediately see that the other party voluntarily abandoned the shield and weapon. So, puff. In the sound of the flame lance in his hand piercing the flesh, even Shira himself was stunned. Weber, whose shoulder was pierced by a lance, stretched out his big hand and firmly grasped Shira's shoulder. The other hand pressed against Shira's chest at the same time. A shock shell. Even so, Priest Shira still didn't think he would lose. He had already blocked the opponent's palm with the other arm without a gun for the first time, and it was only the damage of the shock shell. For him. Wrong, it's a platoon. In the low and hoarse voice, an irresistible huge force surged forward. As if the river was roaring, as if the mountains were collapsing, before Shira could react, there was a dull, thunderous crash of flesh. Click. With the crisp sound, the bones of Shira's arm in front of him were instantly broken, and the shattered arm was pushed back against his chest by Weber's palm, causing his ribs to make a series of snapping sounds. The cannonball hit the ground. Boom. As the priest named Shira slammed on the ground, the entire ground was hit with a deep pit the size of a house. And the figure who passed out in a coma in the pit is the first loser of this celebration. This is the first flaw of observation hockey. What if you can predict the attack? You can't stop this blow. Weber, your arm. It's okay. It's just a shoulder. He wiped the wound on his shoulder casually, ignoring the penetrating wound the size of the bowl. Weber, who picked up the weapon on the ground, rushed into the forest first. Don't be careless, there are 3 other priests. What is this place? Luffy, who stepped on the air and didn't know where to slide, stood up. After he couldn't see anyone, he simply picked up a wooden stick and threw it anywhere. Very well, this way. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. The paper bird hovering in the air almost fell headfirst, causing Nami, who was held in the air by Roman, to spread out the white paper in her hand. What's the situation? Found Luffy, but forget it, let him play for a while. Roman shook his head, riding Enel's attention on the battlefield, and then went to see the going bell first. Of course, the going bell itself Roman can neither move nor prepare to move. His target was the two pillars next to it, the one that Bellamy dedicated to Mingo, later. Come to think of it, with Bellamy's temper following Luffy's footsteps on Sky Island, it's hard to believe he'd get this going pillar by peaceful means. The top of that vine. On this island, there is a huge vine like a skyscraper. It runs through the ruins of Shandora, through the shrine of Enel. Everyone would think it's the tallest place here, including its inhabitants, but actually, there are higher. As Roman took the vertices of the vines as coordinates, he finally saw a flash of light in a cloud layer next to him. Over there. When Roman and Nami flew over the cloud, a huge clock covered with vines appeared in front of them. Really. It was spectacular. Quote. For human beings, big is beautiful, big is good. And the giant clock in front of it is not only huge, but it is not difficult to see from the golden yellow under the vines that this is a building made by going. Even after 400 years, its luster has not been concealed, even in this high altitude where even people from Sky Island will not go. Its posture is still so arrogant, quietly waiting for the day to be struck. Yellow. Snapped. Roman covered Nami's mouth, and a line of text quickly appeared on the white paper in his hand. Be careful, that God will hear. Take your mind, don't get too excited. If he notices something abnormal and comes to check, we'll be finished. Nod your head when you understand. Crazy nod. Then our target is the next two pillars. Roman let go of Nami. Even the two decorative going pillars next to it were huge pillars that needed several people to hug. With the tragic displacement of Going Merry, I am afraid that one will be crushed. Although it's not as valuable as those going artworks that Luffy found in Orochi's belly, there is no problem with this simple going column, billions. If the going bell next to him is tens of billions, forget it, don't be too greedy. Roman nodded to Nami on the other side, and Nami also turned over the best of thieves on her waist, and aimed her big mouth like a barrel at the going pillar in front of her. Tun-tun, gluttonous. Why are there ball clouds everywhere? With a helpless expression, Luffy walked in the woods with large and small cloud balls suspended. It's obviously a rare adventure, but I didn't expect that this place doesn't like making friends so much. And I accidentally got separated from everyone. I always feel that Roman's resentment has been haunting me. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. The bird flying in the air doesn't want to speak. Brush. A dodge past a fluttering cloud, and Luffy grabbed the straw hat. I always feel that bad things will happen when these balls touch. Hey, very keen intuition. The sound from next to him made Luffy turn his head, shocked. The ball can talk. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. I am one of the 4 priests under the throne, Senji Dao, sadly. In the name of God, judge you sinners. Welcome to my trial of the ball. Can the ball be a priest too? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. It's said that I'm a human, not a ball. He suddenly slapped the ball cloud in front of him, and the ball cloud immediately smashed towards Luffy. Of course, this straight-line attack was easily dodged by the disgusted Luffy. But scary billiards. As the missing ball cloud hit the ball cloud behind Luffy, it immediately turned into 2 moving ball clouds, and after a series of collisions, the sky was full of flying ball clouds. Shish. There are clouds of balls that collide irregularly everywhere, causing chaos in this forest. And in the center of these spherical clouds is Luffy. Hey, take my trick, surprise, killing formation. These surprise clouds contain explosions, swords, flames, beasts, all attacks, as long as it touches. Facing the clouds of balls flying all over the sky, Luffy just pressed his straw hat. Just don't get touched, right? Do Lanhai people like to brag so much? The sky is full of balls and clouds moving in an unruly manner, rampant, and with different heights, different sizes, continuous ups and downs, colliding with each other from time to time, resulting in unexpected changes. The dense cloud of balls bounced and flew, equivalent to a dozen people besieging one person. But Luffy just stood there calmly, looking around, listening to all directions, plus observation Haki who had already awakened. The whole person was like rubber. No, Luffy's body is rubber. Therefore, he can bend all kinds of joints, stretch and contract limbs that are impossible for any normal human being, and easily dodge like soft grass dancing in the wind, allowing these dense clouds of balls to rampage, rebound and collide. Just can't touch the corner of his shirt. This heart net. In an instant, the sphere-like priest Dao was stunned. Originally thought they were just the Blue Sea people who were captured by their hands, but who knew that they had also mastered the heart net, skill only learned by their priests. I'm tired of this dodging game, came Luffy's voice amid the flying clouds of wonder. You didn't. Any other means. Look at my move. He stretched out his hand, and a string of adult-sized, explosive clouds, fell into the hands of the priest, Dao, and then with a flick of his hand, a fishing line dragged the string of explosive clouds like a meander. The flying ichthyosaur rushed towards Luffy. Surprise, ball dragon. Facing the rushing ball dragon, Luffy jumped up first, then stretched out his arms and grabbed the fishing line that controlled the ball dragon, then dragged the ball dragon, and rushed towards the priest named Dao. A posture ready to play, to die together. Hey, what are you doing? Don't come here. Then it was Luffy Toothy Isho who answered him. Boom. In the continuous sound of explosions, the priest Dao, who was like a white ball, suddenly jumped back out of the explosion area. The trembling hands stood in front of him. Mad. Fortunately, my heart net. He. When the laughter that came from behind made the priest Dao suddenly startled, but before he could turn his head, two rapidly extending arms bundled him firmly from behind. The observation Haki thing, listening to Roman say it every day makes my ears calluses. Let go of me. Squat down with your legs, build up your strength. Then, bang. Luffy tied the priest with his hands from behind and jumped into the air. After the elastic force was exhausted, under the action of Mr. Newton, the head and feet began to do free fall movement. Rubber, lotus. Number. Boom. With a muffled sound, the round priest Dao's entire head was inserted into the soil, leaving only the short limbs that were still twitching. It really looks like a ball. And Luffy has patted the straw hat and picked up the stick on the ground to continue the adventure. This is the second flaw of observation Haki. What if you can predict the attack? This attack, you're up for it. P.S. The strengthening of the straw hats has begun to take effect. We observe 3 seconds of silence for CP9. Then ask for a ticket by the way. Chapter-101-120 Robin Flower Dance Sanji Arashi legs have gone away with everyone. Walking alone in the forest, Nicole Robin lowered her eyes. No, it should be said that I got separated, on purpose. Recalling the time in Alabasta, Roman, who was still in a wheelchair, told her this. I know your purpose. But Alabasta's historical steel is not the historical text you're looking for, but it doesn't matter, as long as you don't take action. I'll let you take a look at the steel when the matter here is over. You don't have to worry about my default, because I don't want my comrade to be hurt more than a broken rock. After all, your ability is too dangerous. You don't have to worry about the royal family's default. Vivi's relationship with us, and King Cobra's character, are not the kind of person who crosses rivers and demolishes bridges. Also, if you want to follow the historical text after seeing the historical steel in Alabasta, you can come to our ship. There might be a chance soon. Of course, whether to answer or not depends on the captain's intention. Since Mr. Roman is so sure, that is to say, this city has the existence of historical text. But where is it? Snapped. A figure descended from the sky and landed on a stone tablet. It was a soldier under the seat of Enel with the name of Sacred Soldier. A mobile suit equipped with wind shells on its feet and slash shells in its hands. Blue Ocean Man, you offended. Click. It's a pity that the magic soldier didn't finish his lines, and 6 arms grew out of his waist, shoulders, and neck, and he twisted with force at the same time. 6 flowers twist roll. Well, it instantly became a twist, in the physical sense. So Roman's fear of Nicole Robin is not unreasonable. This kind of attack method that appears directly on others is really impossible to prevent. The primary observation hockey is not easy to use. As long as it is a humanoid creature, it is easy to be killed by Robin with one move. It is fortunate that Robin is not a person with a high murder intention and no lower limit. Otherwise, if he directly inserts his eyes and digs his crotch, 100 million pirates with bad affinity may kneel on the spot. This is. Wiping away the vines on the stone tablet in front of him, Robin carefully read the ancient text on it. A monument to the city. Chandora. Sure enough, Mr. Roman didn't lie to me. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot a prosperous city 1100 years from now in C circle calendar 402. The time of its demise was 800 years ago. It just corresponds to a 100-year blank history that was obliterated by the government. It seems that Mr. Roman's identity is really. Who? Boom. It's really the tall magic soldier jumped over, lovely little girl. Is it easy to kill the magic soldier under my command? The magic soldier, who is 3 meters tall and has a waist circumference of 3 meters, glanced at the magic soldier with white eyes lying aside, and Nicole Robin, who was holding a notebook and a pen. I just killed a Shandia boss, and I didn't expect to meet an interesting blue ocean woman. In the face of the magic soldier who was in an offensive posture, Robin just calmly put away the paper and pen and pointed to the other side. Under your feet. Under your feet. Looking at the ruins that had been stepped out of the ruins by the huge weight that fell from the sky, Ashan, the commander of the divine soldier, looked blank. Do you think this will distract me from my ignorance? Don't underestimate me because I'm not a priest, it's just because I haven't learned the heart net. I won't lose to those 4 in terms of my strength. Forget it, talking about the importance of history with a fool like you is like playing the piano to a cow. Let's be presumptuous, eat me with 1 move and 10 consecutive cuts. With a slight jump, a body weighing several hundred kilograms suddenly rushed forward. At the same time, 10 slashing shells appeared in the hands of this magic soldier, which is equivalent to 10 swordsmen charging up to kill at the same time. As he himself said, this magic soldier is by no means weak. But, faced with the high-speed rushing like a chariot of meat and eggs, Nicole Robin just waved her hand calmly. If the so-called priest is at your level. Flowers. A circle of arms appeared on the body of the attacking divine soldier. 2 palms covered his eyes, and the rest of the palms dexterously turned over the slashing shell in his hand, and then. Wait. Puff puff puff. 10 slashing slashes erupted from the shell. Attacks capable of splitting rocks, and rocks fell on their masters instantly. It's easy to get a straw hat group, and other people take a long time to deal with a strong enemy. After eating his own move, 10 slash, the magic soldier fell to the ground, his huge body slid forward weakly, and stopped in front of Robin. Snapped. Several arms hung up the blood-stained soldier, and Robin, with one hand on his hips, looked at the reckless man in front of him. Although history has been reincarnated, it is precisely because of remembering history that we humans have been able to develop going. A history destroyer like you. I killed you. In the face of the magic soldier who broke through and burst into the face, Nicole Robin just turned around calmly. Click, click, click. Ah! Arms appeared on the shoulders of the soldier again, grabbing his fingers and breaking them back. As long as the power gap is not to the extent that an ant shakes a big tree, the humanoid creature is in front of this intellectual beauty wearing a cowboy hat. You can only obediently catch yourselves. Go away. Dazzling 100 blossoms great delphinium. An arm raised only to the sky appeared on the ground, forming a series of orbits. And the fat magic soldier is the ball flying above. With a long scream, he rolled all the way to the edge of the island, and then was thrown out by his arms. Start doing free fall exercises. Spike. Interesting. Lightning flashed, and a figure appeared in the sky above the ruins. That's a man named Enel. The ability of this woman. Maybe she will be one of the last 5 standing. There's still a while, let God appreciate your struggling, dancing, again. Bang. The 2 legs kicked together fiercely, and the figures were staggered and separated. Hey hey hey. With a cigarette in his mouth, Sanji looked at the jungler with 2 guns in front of him. Didn't you say that only God and his priests or our enemies here? It doesn't look like the 2, does it? I am sorry, Blue Ocean Man. Sandia's leader Bram, who was holding 2 guns, answered coldly. Whether it's God's side, or you Lanhai people, this is our hometown, and those who set foot on it are enemies. Tisk, your laws are really harsh. Huh. If you don't talk too much, let's see the real chapter below your fists and feet. Loin. In the face of Sanji's kick with the whistling sound of the wind, the Sandia warrior named Bram jumped on the spot, and the wind shell under his feet suddenly spewed a jet of air and threw him back high. The double guns fired in midair made Sanji hurriedly close his eyes and chase by feeling. But when I was about to catch up with the opponent. Yunbei. As Bram popped a shell from his waist and threw it backwards, a cloud path like a slide appeared in the air. Bram, who can see normally, stepped on the small Waiba and galloped up the ladder Luffy, while Sanji, who was running on the ground. Tisk, what an obscene dismissal. Bang bang bang. In the non-stop flashes and bullets flying, it was the calm voice of the other party. The first key to fighting is to master distance. As a gunner, it is the most effective way to fight by keeping a distance to interfere with the opponent's line of sight, and then attacking the opponent from a distance. Do you expect me to compete with you in kicking skills? Brush. Puff puff. Reluctantly, Sanji, who was speeding beside him, dodged under a big tree, and a series of bullet holes on the ground chased his footsteps, and was finally blocked by the big tree. It would be good if someone competed with me in kicking skills, but unfortunately. One of the melee archers in this world is enough to have Usopp. If it wasn't for being forced by Roman to hide and hide every day, would it be very difficult to meet such an opponent? I have to say that Roman's training is still very useful. So, use that trick. Ta ta ta. Sanji, who walked out from behind the tree, surprised Bram, who was occupying the commanding heights next to him. What? Lanhai people, gave up resistance so quickly. To be honest, you're already pretty good. You. Standing on the ground, Sanji just took the smoke out of his mouth and shot it into the sky. The cigarette slowly turned and lifted into the air. Have you seen flying kicks? Meow. Facing the sudden charge of Sanji, Bram calmly fired flash bombs and threw cloud shells to the side to form a cloud slide and move quickly to try to distance him. But in the light, Sanji's voice came. Stupid, your cloud road betrayed your moving direction. So what? You are a guy who only relies on kicking skills and has no long-range means. Can you still beat me? You can kill me, I will eat this cloud on the spot. Saw. A white slashing wave flew out of the flash, and instantly came to Bram, who was gliding on the cloud path. Make his pupils shrink. Hide. Puff. In the splash of blood, the leader of Shandia flew backwards with blood from his chest. The muscles of the feet contract and stretch rapidly, creating kinetic energy, and then quickly ejecting the legs. After the speed of sound is exceeded, the air in front of the legs is compressed, and the vacuum is rolled up to send out sharp chop waves. The figure flew backwards, catching the slowly falling cigarette. Sanji took a breath and calmly exhaled a ring of smoke. It's not as difficult as I imagined. It's just I really don't want to use this kind of skill set with green algae headbutting. Manga Chapter 348 Introduction to Khalifa. Kicking. If you can reach the speed of the side wind, you can make a Renkyaku Tempest kick. Sanji, hardware is definitely enough. It can't be said that his kicking skills are not even as good as Nairobi, that garbage CP9 playing with guns. What's missing is just a theory. Chapter 113, Invincible for the Direction of the Heart. A Shandian warrior hiding behind a big tree looked at the tall man standing in the forest. The head is covered with a white scarf, the upper body is naked, and the lower body is wearing patterned bloomers. Enel. Watch me take your head off. The Shandia warrior cautiously aimed the musket in his hand from behind the tree trunk at the white below. What about people? Is it? With difficulty, he turned his head and met the indifferent eyes of the tall figure next to him. Crackle. Quick, there are giant vines ahead. The leader of Shandia, named Mantis, that is, the man who wears sunglasses with Mohican hairstyle and is used as the standard unit of combat power by the little girl Aisha, who is born with the ability of the heart network in his village, walks on a small Waiba skateboard with a soldier came flying. The person who rushed to the shrine and took down Enel. Crackle. The Mantis, who turned around suddenly, looked behind him, and a white figure squatted on the tree trunk beside him, holding the warrior who had just followed him in his hand. Of course, the scorched warriors should be helpless. Are you looking for me? Here I am, warrior of Shandia Mantis. Bang! The Waiba under his feet suddenly rushed, and the warrior named Mantis jumped up and killed Enel on the tree trunk next to him. Yeah, ha ha ha, you want to kill me? Facing the oncoming spear, Enel just held his chin with interest. Very well, I'll give you 5 minutes. Puff. The spear pierced his head, but the Mantis, the leader of Shandia, was injured. On Enel's wound, the jumping thunderbolts slowly closed, forming an arrogant face. I'm sitting here, killing or slaying as you please. Who made me a god? Old man, you are. Roman and Nami, who had a great harvest, returned to the battlefield, and they bumped into the Sky Knight Gonfur, who was riding a spotted Pegasus. I just came out of the shrine, and that god is gone. The old man in armor looked solemnly at Roman, who was flapping his wings and flying, and Nami, who was being held by him. I remember you were those Blue Ocean people from yesterday. What are you doing here? Ah, you can't say we're here to steal going, right? We broke the law here, so we were brought here to be tested, and you saw it. Roman gestured down to the forest of explosions, battles and black smoke. There's a big fight going on down there, but what are you doing here, old man? I have an ominous premonition. That god, the old man in the armor knight refrained from saying the name. Probably doing something crazy again. What else could it be? Before I left, I blasted this place into slag. Although Roman knew it, he couldn't say it, because of course it's smashing this place to scum. Enel. Roman, who turned back suddenly, was startled. What happened to this guy? I heard several interesting sounds. In the face of Roman and Gonfowl, who are facing the enemy. As for Nami, she has not realized that this is the final boss of Sky Island. Enel indifferent Isho standing on the ball cloud. The former god, and turning to look at Roman, Enel showed interested eyes. A lonely little fellow. Enel, quote. The armored Pegasus Knight Gonfall asked with a gun. What are you talking about? What smashed into scum? It's simple. Enel glanced at the god, who used to be Angel Island. You just have to imagine the most tragic possibility you can think of, and that's what I'm going to do. The old man fights with you. Snapped. The figure flashed. No. Not even a trace of movement. Enel, who was standing in front of the three of them just now, has teleported to Gonfir's side, and put 2 hands on the front and back of the old man, and then 20 million volts, discharge. The blue thunderlight instantly penetrated the body of the old knight Gonfour, causing the old man and his mount to fall into the sky with black smoke. Presumptuous, I am a god. After knocking out the powerful Gonfour in one move, Enel, who was sitting on the ball cloud again in a flash, held his chin and looked at Roman, who hadn't even had time to do anything. Your hometown is not in the blue ocean, is it? Enel words made Roman's face froze, and before he could think of how to answer, the man on the opposite side with a thunder drum raised his chin proudly. Compared to other people who don't know my greatness, your heart is very clear about the power of this god. God's punishment, Thunder Dragon, Lei Ying, Wan Lei. Oops, Enel is reading my thoughts. This is unscientific, he can only read battles no, he can't think about it anymore. Roman's face twitched, and he quickly forced himself to start reciting the periodic table of elements. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, potassium, calcium. Use cluttered memories to distract attention. Facing Roman, who fluttered his wings and retreated, Enel showed an interested expression. Your knowledge and the information are very interesting, and this god authorizes you to follow in my footsteps. My 4 trash men have already lost 2 of them. Look no further, the entire Sky Island is under Enel's control. So he had noticed Roman for a long time. As long as Enel focused, he could read some vague information even in the inner thinking activities. Compared with other people, the information about himself contained in the thought fluctuations of the young man in front of him is the strongest and clearest. It even surpassed the 4 priests under Enel's seat, allowing him to hear a lot of interesting things. How is it? Do you want to rule the infinite continent with me? Even this god needs a jester to relieve his boredom. Infinite continent. The moon, the abandoned planet. Genius. You sure know. This time, Enel was really interested. Fun, fun. I see inside you, anxious and empty. Enel looked at Roman condescendingly. Being with these blue sea people will only make you feel extremely anxious and fear. They love to cause trouble so much, they make a mess every time, they laugh heartlessly in the face of a powerful enemy that is impossible to defeat. And whenever you see their smiling faces and soft eyes when they mention their hometown and their relatives, you forcibly hold back a fake smile, but your heart is full of jealousy and emptiness. Roman felt stiff all over, and for a moment there was a lump in his mind. Enel's observation hockey be so strong. Oda misunderstood me, forget it, sand crocodiles are like that. Also. Did you call, heart net, observation hockey? Holding his chin and tilting his head, Enel seemed to have found a new toy. Who is that, sand crocodile? How dare you compare yourself to this god? No, don't think about it anymore. Concentrate, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. If the heart is clear, the sky will not fall. Interesting little guy, how is the proposal of this god considered? Go to the infinite continent with me, under the protection of this god. You don't have to be nervous, you don't have to work hard, exercise slowly, and slowly develop your fruit ability. Enel's words were like the whispers of a demon, hitting Roman's heart. One day, you will be so powerful that all people will bow down. A power only under me. Yeah, if you go to the moon with Enel. If the moon has a city, you can live there if you electrify Enel. With the guidance of this top observation hockey, and patiently exercise to develop various fruit abilities and even awakening. With the particularity of the paper fruit that possesses superhuman body, superpower, and supercreation at the same time, it is completely possible to obtain the strength of the 4 emperors. At that time, the world was so big that it was impossible to go there. Pretend X to slap your face, the game world is so happy. Isn't it better than the current one who is desperately trying to improve his strength, racking his brains to calculate and plan, wandering among various powerful enemies to barely save his life? Even further, even the universe. The trembling in her arms made Roman come back to her senses. Although Nami didn't know who the discharger was in front of her, she was as smart as she had seen the wavering and longing in Roman's eyes. It seems that she will leave this embrace in the next second, and the man who redeemed her will leave her. From the new group. How good the moon is, there is no bullshit Shichibukai. Go until invincible, and then pretend to slap the face smoothly. In Nami's desperate eyes, Roman finally made up his mind. I refuse. What is invincible? Go to hell. I haven't even experienced combat. I haven't even tasted defeat. That kind of invincibility is bullshit. It's aloft in the sky. I'm dignified. Haven't fallen to the point of having that unrealistic daydream. It is a man, and the strength must be spelled out with one punch and one kick. The throne of the strong can only sit comfortably when it is forged by blood and fire. One day I only know go-go. What's the difference between go-go and a dog? Restraining his mind, Roman focused his attention on Enel in front of him. Pieces of white paper flew out, densely enclosing him and Nami like satellites. If the head falls off, there will be a big scar on the mouth of the bowl. If you want to fight, fight, be afraid of a bird. At the same time, an aura of arrogance and dominance rose from Roman. Radiating in all directions, the frightened birds fell to the ground, and the beasts were crawling. P.S. Uncontrollable conqueror only. Chapter 114 Three Troubles Cooperation to defeat the enemy. Tisk, what kind of swordsman are you? Facing Zoro's question, the priest with tattooed sunglasses holding a huge white long knife, pushed the sunglasses with his middle finger. Swordsman of the blue ocean, the iron cloud, in my hand is not only as light as a cloud, but as hard as iron, but also stretches freely and can change shape. So you Sky Island's so-called swordsmen are jugglers. Zoro, who slammed into the iron wall of the opponent's cloud blade in the fierce battle just now, complained that he couldn't. Can you so-called swordsmen fight me with passion? You have to play with some weird abilities. A long knife transforms into a shield, whip, fork, gun. Just don't use the knife properly, right? Brush, brush, brush. Sir, let's help you. More than a dozen magic soldiers leapt down, and at the same time, 4 warriors from Shandia also galloped over. Is it just us? Web. The leader is the shoulder wounded. The wound on the shoulder has healed. The great warrior of Shandia, Weber, and behind him are the last 3 warriors. It seems that no one else is following, but it doesn't matter. They have already rushed to the foot of the giant vine. Just climb the vine like a skyscraper. Above is the shrine of God. This time. The goal is in sight. Take off Enel's head. Light the lamp of Chandora. Dream. The priest with a tattoo on half of his arm pushed his sunglasses with his middle finger. In his heart, the voices of the other 3 priests have disappeared, which means that they have all been defeated. Boom. In a splash of earth and stone, the huge snake, Lord of the Sky, also rushed into this battlefield. But what it looks inexplicably painful. What a shame, a bunch of guys who don't practice enough. Facing the enemies that had already broken through to the front, the priest waved his hand fiercely. Holy, use that trick. The so-called holy is a giant dog he keeps. Following the order of the priest this giant suddenly ran around the battlefield, and circles of white thorns and iron clouds pulled up with its footsteps, forming a huge upside-down iron cage to trap everyone. The giant snake, the Lord of the Sky, also surrounded it. Well, if Roman was here, he would definitely complain that this is an inferior copycat birdcage that won't shrink. Ha ha ha, this is Lord Ohm's Trial of Iron. Bai Jing Death Game. None of you can run. Puff. With a flash of sword light, Zoro slashed the dedicated commentator with a knife, and moved his neck indifferently. I'm not going to run anyway. Bastard, this is Bai Jing. Before the other magic soldier who took over the explanation had finished shouting, a big hand was placed on the back of his head, and then he slammed into the iron cage behind him. Puff. Well, once it touches it's not easy to handle. Weber nodded calmly, and the divine soldier who fell covered in blood behind him was an example. 17 people and 2 animals left. Kill. In an instant, all the creatures in the iron cage rushed towards the nearest enemy. And Zoro's target is the master here, the priest who presides over the Trial of Iron. No matter what the iron cages are around here, it's absolutely right to kill the active enemy first. 2 Swordsmanship, Yingbo. Iron Wall. The cloud blade in his hand instantly turned into a wall to block Zoro's wave-like shockwave. With a wave of the cloud blade in his hand, Priest Ohm turned into a long whip from the wall in an instant. Iron Whip. Brush. Sharp as a knife and soft as a whip, the weapon slashed across the battlefield in an instant, leaving a long crack on the ground. And Zoro had already pulled away. Blue Ocean Man, your attack is too single. Your sword is no more than 2 meters around your body. My cloud blade is dozens of meters long. It can be turned into a strong shield when you retreat. It can be attacked and defended. You can take it. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind are the 6 faculties of man. In addition to good, evil, and peace. Each has tranquility and pollution, which is exactly the 36 troubles in one life. Good fight. What poem do you read? Priest Ohm has a black line. Doesn't it seem that we are very illiterate? My sword has been aimed at your heart, pray to God. 36 worries in the first world, 72 worries in the second world, and troubles in the third world. Go to hell. The cloud knife in the hand of the angry Priest Ohm suddenly waved like a wave, and the broken stone suddenly attacked Zoro, who was in a 3-knife stance. 108 troubles whined. Zoro's body turned sharply, his knives spun in unison, and the sword gas on the 3-handed knives turned into a huge knife wheel that strangled and cut everything and slashed at the opponent. Cut out in one move. The swirling blade became more and more violent, and the hurricane provoked was deafening. In an instant, the cloud knife, which is said to be stronger than steel, created by the Priest Ohm, was smashed into pieces. Then, without stopping, it devoured all the way like Arlong. How could? The attack came too fast, and the range of the knife wind was too wide. The Priest Ohm only had time to let out an unbelievable exclamation. The whole person was like a rag thrown into the blade storm, blood splashed in an instant, spinning upside down. Flying slash, one-shot kill. Paper dance, maple forest. Shish. Pieces of white paper are flying and spinning, like a high-speed cutting wheel cutting through the sky. Not to mention just mere flesh and blood, even if the steel robot comes, it will also scrape you into a pile of scrap iron. But you want to challenge me with just this means? Letting the paper spin and cut through his body, Enel just looked at the boy who was full of fighting in front of him with a calm expression. Then give it a try. Holding a single sword, Roman suddenly rushed towards Enel, who was standing still. At the same time, the white paper flying in the battlefield formed a paper chain and grabbed the feet of the standing white figure. Childish. The going stick in his hand hit the Guyu drum on his right shoulder, and a giant bird-shaped thunder beast suddenly rushed out. 30 million volts. Thunderbird. In the face of the huge Thunderbird rushing towards him, Roman's unavoidable arms blocked in front of him and met him directly. Crackling. In an instant, the whole body of Roman was jumping with blue lightning, and the free lightning kept exploding and flying. Cocked. Oh, take advantage of the insulating properties of paper. Enel raised his eyelids and didn't care. Under his heart network covering the entire Sky Island, he had long known Roman's fruit ability. Unfortunately, paper is not resistant to high temperature, so it is doomed that you have no chance of winning against me. Electric light. Even though Roman's charge speed is so fast that ordinary people can't react to the naked eye, Enel can still send thunder from his fingertips in a leisurely manner, and then convert the thunder into light and heat, and this. Puff puff. The paper on Roman's body quickly turned black, carbonized, and then turned into fly ash. Even the life paper won't last long under such high temperature, but as long as you get close to each other, at least there is a chance to fight. Cut. The single sword in Roman's hand fell like lightning, but in front of Enel, the real Thunderbolt incarnation, this speed was still not enough to see. As long as he has a thought, he can instantly. Clang. The paper knife and the going stick collided fiercely, and Enel's eyes swept away, and he immediately understood. Nice little trick. Bury metals into paper, and then link to each other and penetrate deep into the earth. The two weapons were firmly pressed against each other. Roman was going all out, but Enel still had the energy to speak. That is, if I were to elementalize, to teleport away, it would be inevitable for these wires to direct current into the ground in a split second. It's just a little smart. Even so, it's just a waste of stretch for me. Enel was so well-intentioned, was to disintegrate Roman's will. Roman knew this, and Enel knew it too. But what he doesn't know is, I'm not fighting alone. Woohoo. At the same time as the two swords and sticks, a Huang Sharon tornado broke into the battlefield from the side. It's a pity that Nami is not a crocodile, and this yellow sand can also deal with ordinary people. For Enel, it is too lazy to even hide. In an instant, the yellow sand fell on Enel's naked upper body, causing his face to change dramatically. Opportunity. The paper knife in Roman's hand spun around and slashed towards Enel's chest. The moment the blade touched the opponent's skin, the eyes suddenly lit up. Only the white light remains. Bang, bang. The charred Roman flew out backwards, and in the center of the battlefield just now, a figure covered in thunder stood proudly. He swallowed thunder and spit out electricity all over his body, and thousands of thunder snakes jumped and drilled randomly. In an instant, they spread out in all directions, densely intertwined into a thunder and lightning barrier, and the ground wire, arranged by Roman on the ground, instantly melted in the high temperature fracture. Simple version, Thor. Sure enough, as Enel himself said, it is indeed unrealistic to want to divert his power away from mere Earth. Cough, ha ha ha. However, Roman, who flew out, got up, pieces of charred paper peeled off, and then a new generation was wrapped around the body. This. He raised the going stick in his hand. I'll take it. Enel's weapon said goodbye to him as the bucket opened its mouth wide on the paper in the palm of his hand. You just now. The god, with a downcast face, doesn't care about a mere stick, but for the weakness just now. Sure enough, as I guessed, you can only hear my heart, but not the thoughts of others. Why? Of course, because only Roman knew about Enel's true strength on this island. He was the most feared one. It was only after a little thought in his heart that Enel could clearly hear his thoughts. And the others, who is Enel? Don't know, like Nami behind. It turns out that you handed over the most important part of the plan to the girl behind you. Enel instantly figured out the joint, which was in the yellow sand that flew in just now. Seastone pellets. Roman sighed. Unfortunately, you can only suppress your strength for a moment, otherwise. Boring trick. Enel wiped his chest, a blush that made his face serious. Looks like I'm going to be more serious. P.S. This is tomorrow's update. That is to say, there will be only one update tomorrow. Originally, I thought I had hinted it clearly enough. At present, Enel can only occasionally hear other people's thoughts during the battle, original work, but because Roman has been thinking about Enel for a long time and violently, he can read it. Roman's thoughts. Like the difference between a whisper and a repeated Twitter broadcast. And Nami didn't even know what Roman handed her to throw it in the sand, so Enel was hit on the spot. Superpower can act on seawater and seastone. Refer to Golden Lion to control seawater. Nami's ability to activate depends on books. I am not afraid of seastone. Then, after seeing this and saying that I abuse the master, I have nothing to say. In the original book, Luffy climbed a vine 3 times, forget it, not to mention the original book. Well, there are a lot of 200,000 word single brush shichibukai hairstyles that are not messy in the One Piece article of the same period as me. Absolutely do not abuse the master. Fly Up so cool, although I don't watch it. You can go and watch it if you like it. With Roman's current strength of less than 100 million, I can't imagine how to kill 500 million Enel by chopping melons and vegetables. Why don't I just pierce my chest in this chapter? It's really boring to complain about my style of writing even after 300,000 words. Finally, the day after tomorrow. Because my chapter starts with 3,000 words, and I can't learn other authors who have never more than 2,000 words. And because I went to Sanjong through the normal process, there was no recommendation during the period, it was delayed until now. Any other author would have been cursed for a long time, and the money is more than 100,000 words. Even if you can reverse the, but who will pay to read the previous content, right? But for me Sanjong's glory, first time on the street, is much better than money. I think it's okay to write, and I'll give it a shot when the time comes. I think it's a rubbish book, so leave some morals to get together. I should be considered a very Buddhist author. It's hard to get a group, and the tickets are just shouted at random. There's no need to scold like an enemy, right? Chapter 115 Destruction Recruitment Second Gear Luffy. Thank you so much. Hey, uncle, don't talk. In the forest, Usopp, who was covered in scars, helped a more seriously injured Sky Island soldier to go to the outer edge of the island. This is the wounded person he encountered in the forest. The wounds on his body were not left over from the battle, but after being imprisoned and labored and thunder and lightning whipped. I am going out. However, the seriously injured uncle just muttered to himself, my comrades covered me with their bodies, just to let me put this news. Okay, I'll take you out. Hey, I finally killed those two chubby guys. What's their name? Usopp didn't know that he killed two deputy commanders, Zongwu and Xiaowu, the younger brothers of the priest Dao. I thought it was just a simple encounter with two miscellaneous soldiers. Who made those two guys look like miscellaneous soldiers? However, their weapons are. Touching the shell in the bag, Usopp looked satisfied. 2 slashing shells, 1 flame shell, and 1 flavor shell. These are not civilian shells from the girl's house in Angel Island, but actual, military shells. With these things. Hey, Sanji, and... Speaking of Cao Cao's arrival, Usopp saw Sanji and a blonde girl named Canis appear in front of him as soon as he thought of the family living by the sea on Angel Island. You are this. Oh. Sanji, who had put out the cigarette butt in his hand, turned his head. It's Usopp. Miss Canis is here to apologize. They have the rule that they must call the police when they encounter Blue Sea people, and at the same time call the express shrimp to bring us here to accept the trial. That's why the white berets and the super express shrimp came so quickly. I'm sorry, Don't blame yourself, Miss Canis. Facing the guilty blonde girl, Sanji shook his head. We already know that everything is controlled by the guy named God here. You will be wiped out if you resist a little bit. In the face of death, it is impossible to ask others to be selfless and noble. Besides, you can come here to remind us that it is already a very kind act, so leave quickly. Canis, is that you? The seriously injured uncle who was supported by Usopp raised his head and looked at the blonde girl. Are you Uncle Unor? How could you be hurt like this? You guys are not. I'll call a doctor. Facing the blonde girl who turned and was about to leave, the seriously injured and dying tree suddenly pulled her. Canis, hurry up and inform everyone. Escape. The uncle, who seemed to be returning to the light, suddenly opened his eyes wide, as if he saw a terrifying scene. Enel is ready to destroy the entire Angel Island. No, it's not just Angel Island, he's even ready to destroy the sanctuary. Destroy everything. But then himself. For a while, the blonde girl named Canis also couldn't accept it. Even if he claims to be a god, he still needs people to rule, he can't rule the air. It's the Ark Proverbs. The uncle looked remorseful and desperate. We've been forced to build flying boats for the past 6 years. In an instant, Usopp and Sanji looked up at the empty sky at the same time, and a horrific threat hung overhead like the sword of Damocles, as if it would fall in the next second. Danger. Instinctively, Usopp pulled the seriously injured uncle to the side. At the same time, Sanji gently threw the blonde girl Canis out, and then a waterfall-like long chain of lightning was formed out of thin air in the sky, condensed in the blink of an eye, and twisted into a brilliant and terrifying world-destroying divine light. In the midst of a sky-shattering thunder, the violent body fell instantly like a beam of brilliant light, twisting and turning over. Boom! The figures of Usopp and Sanji were drowned in the lightning. Even the ground beneath his feet was suddenly missing a large piece. Mr. Sanji, Mr. Usopp. The blonde girl, whose tears kept falling, covered her mouth tightly. No, now is not the time to be sad. The girl who resisted her grief turned over and climbed onto the Vibra who was riding next to her, and stepped on the accelerator pedal. I have to hurry up and inform the residents of the island. As for Sanji and Usopp, in the girls' common sense, no creature can survive God's punishment. Boom boom boom. Just when there were only 2 people and 1 beast left on the battlefield where Zoro was located, the wild lightning in the sky slammed down, and the entire battlefield collapsed abruptly. In the chaos, a half-white half-black orb also fell into the ruins. Is this where? Standing firm, Weber, the sole survivor of Shandia's side, looked at the ruins of the building hidden below the battlefield. Even if he has never seen it with his own eyes, it has always existed only in the legends of the old people, even if all the going on the building has been swept away, leaving only mottled rocks, but the imprint in the depths of the bloodline still makes him instantly certain. This is Shandora. Hometown 400 years ago. The eternal regret of the Shandia family, there is no light to light up for the benefactor. Damn. Boom. Under a huge rock like a house, Zoro suddenly stood up and overturned the rock. Broken the stone, I almost crushed me to death. Indeed, it's a miracle not to die. Next to Nicole, Robin, who has been doing archaeology in the ruins, watched Zoro, who was alive and kicking, complaining that she couldn't, but she immediately noticed the other side. Wow! Half of the blackened paper ball spread out, revealing Roman and Nami inside. Ahem, as expected of the Logia devil fruit with the name, Invincible. I tried my best, but couldn't beat it. In fact, if he wanted to run, Roman tried his best to make a paper wrapped into a ball and jumped directly off the Sky Island. I believe he could escape. But, yeah, haha. Enel, who was sitting on the ball cloud, fell slowly. Yes, this survival game is kind of interesting. But until then. Sizzle. The giant snake, Lord of the Sky, who was looking for something, walked around excitedly, making the god in the sky dissatisfied. It's noisy, stinky snake. God's punishment. Boom. A giant thunder like a beam of light fell, and the Lord of the Sky, who had no problem with Roman's knife and Weber's bazooka, was bathed in the thunder, and instantly collapsed in a scorched black. Okay, let's get down to business now. I'm going to rule the infinite continent of my dreams, allowing 4 people to go with me. Enel's arrogant gaze swept across the entire battlefield. The great warrior of Shandia, Weber, the 3-knife-style Zoro, Roman who was running out of paper beside him, Robin the archaeologist, and Nami, who was guarded by Roman. But there were 5 people left at the scene, which made Benshin's face a bit unbearable. After he finished speaking, he sat cross-legged on the ball cloud, holding his chin and tilting his head. Well, who should disappear? Are you going to be eliminated by yourself, or I will do it myself? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Would you like to? Facing Zoro's question, Robin pressed the cowboy hat. I don't want to. Then so do I. I'm also grateful to Buman. Weber, who was carrying the bazooka, looked proud. I've been fighting for so long. If I surrender again, I won't be able to lose face. Roman, who had regained some strength, stepped forward. I also. Before Nami made a statement, the samurai sword, bazooka, paper knife, and arms all aimed at Enel who was sitting on the cloud ball. Then you disappear. Facing the crowd's weapons, Enel just dropped Vivi's eyelids. Presumptuous. The battle started in an instant. No, it's too flattering to describe Roman and others as fighting. In front of the giant thunder that can teleport infinitely, can be elementalized, and can summon and destroy everything at will, the so-called battle is a one-sided slaughter. Robin, who tried to delay time with words, fell. Her flowers are indeed powerful for most humanoid creatures, but for elemental enemies, especially people like Enel who are covered in lightning, it is simply a matter of growing arms on the opponent's body. Ask yourself for trouble. Zoro, who was in melee combat with a knife, also fell. The end of slashing Enel with 3 metal knives, it's not as simple as a mere spark and lightning. It's like an ordinary person who actively touches a high voltage line to kill. If there is armament hockey, maybe there will be a chance. Now, as for Weber, the great warrior of Sandia. Originally, he could play Seastone Suppression with one hand, and then put a deadly attack on Enel's chest. However, Roman had just used the same method, and Enel, who was careless, wouldn't be hit at all, so he didn't even have the chance to work hard. If there is any difference, it is that Weber is worthy of being a great warrior of Shandora. With rough skin and thick flesh, he actually resisted a few times before falling. Then what about you? Woohoo! Facing Roman, who was already kneeling on one knee, Enel asked in a relaxed manner. This god will give you one last chance, follow me. In this way, even if it's your little girlfriend who hides in the snake's belly, this god can get away with it. Hee, Nami isn't just hiding. After falling into this battlefield, Roman had already noticed the huge snake, and finally knew why his scout bird couldn't find that guy Luffy everywhere. Because under the perspective of his observation hockey, a figure is still wandering in the belly of the giant snake. Mad, we are fighting to death, but you are hanging up the phone to hunt for treasure. I have a sentence. Forget it, let's take a look. At least Luffy also came to the final battlefield, right? What are you looking forward to? Facing Enel's question, Roman grinned Isho. Why, don't you listen yourself? Sure enough, as long as he calms down and no longer fears, Enel will not be able to read his own thoughts. After all, Roman himself was the one who awakened observation hockey. Conversely, Roman can also take the initiative to let his inner voice appear in Enel's mind. This is what he found in battle, although it was of no use. So stupid to refuse the gift of God. Discharge 20 million volts. Facing the thunder light gushing from the opponent's fingertips, Roman's mouth twitched. Good brothers, the blessings and the hardships are the same. It seems that I can't escape the straw hat white eyes, place 2. Brush. At this moment, a gust of wind came from behind at the same time. 2 figures landed beside Roman, facing the gushing thunder light, a figure blocked in front of him. Blue Nami. Crackling. It was Nami, not Luffy, who stood in front of Roman to resist the lightning. This. In an instant, there was a buzzing sound in Roman's mind, and his heart stopped beating. Until. Roman, come back to my soul. The body swayed, and in front of him was Luffy's signature silly face. Blue Luffy Nami she. Isn't Nami fine? HMPH, Roman, don't underestimate me. In front of Nami, who was standing in front of her, was a semicircular iron cage. Lightning roamed and jumped on it, and finally all was guided into the earth. Although the step voltage still exists, it is no longer any harm to those inhuman constitutions present. Faraday electromagnetic cage. How about it, my trick, beauty saves Ying. Snapped. The girl's body was embraced by Roman, and thousands of words were turned into a simple sentence. You'll be fine. Fighting with the determination to die is different from fighting with the heart that doesn't matter if you die, Roman. The girl in her arms raised her head seriously, her pupils reflected in the eyes of the other party. We are fighting to survive, no matter how strong the enemy is. Interesting, God's prophecy actually went wrong. Enel, who had eaten a mouthful of dog food, was inexplicably upset, and as for Luffy's anger had already overshadowed the joy of just getting out of trouble. Zoro, Robin, and half-dead Roman are in a coma on the ground. Yuta, my partner. He strode forward, approaching the tall white figure. What did you do? You mean that trash? Enel was indifferent and sarcastic. He raised his finger and aimed at Luffy and launched an attack directly. Discharge 20 million volts. Boom. The thunder like a beam of light instantly drowned Luffy's figure. The electric light came and went quickly, leaving a dark pit on the ground in an instant, but Luffy. With his hands on his hips, Luffy looked behind him, puzzled. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. He, it's a good escape. How about this move? With both hands beating on the big drum behind him, with Enel pulling forward, the rolling thunder formed a giant dragon, like a splendid divine beast twisting and turning its violent body, roaring towards Luffy. 60 million volts. Brontosaurus. Rumble boom. The thunder light devoured everything, like a god and a devil, and directly pulled the place where Luffy was into a sea of plasma. However, after Li Guang passed, he was still Luffy with a strange look on his face. I still don't believe in evil. Facing the unscathed Luffy, Enel rushed forward and pressed his palm on Luffy's shoulder. Cold Isho. Discharge 100 million volts. In an instant, a huge amount of violent thunder and lightning fires and shock waves spread in all directions with Luffy as the core, and the underground rock formations of the entire battlefield groaned and turned up. Countless gravel faults were blasted into the air, and the situation was like a volcanic eruption, which was terrifying. However, Nani. Facing Luffy, who was still unscathed, the so-called god was stunned and turned into an emoji on the spot. Bang! He smashed the opponent with a punch. Luffy took off the straw hat from the top of his head and threw it to the side, which was caught by Roman. Roman, I'm going to use that trick. Go ahead, Captain. As Luffy pulled away, one hand was placed on his left knee and his right fist was on the ground. The legs suddenly pressed down. The calf acts like an air pump to pump air into the blood vessels. Boom. The blood in the whole body flows at a high speed, bringing the speed beyond the limit. Luffy's skin turned red, and in the white steam dancing in the wind, it was his serious words. Second gear. P.S. I am too lazy to score, count 2 chapters. Testimonials. Think about it carefully, and make a big push. Of course I know that it is difficult to write about the boat flow, and I will definitely be scolded. It's not easy to get grades and it's hard to write, that's the reason for the current extinction of the boat flow, but there are always people who do not believe in evil, right? Write the original book, talk about water, write self-created, talk about stealing the limelight, strengthen the boss, talk about abuse, strengthen the protagonist group, talk about boredom. This book has been scolded all the way, and I have to delete comments and ban every day, because many of the openings directly greeted the whole family has dirty words, just write a Jill or something like that. But they all survived because it was on the shelves. You can speak openly and openly about the fan value. Bahahahaha. So here it is. Make or break heroes, and subscribe to Sea Levels. I have written well and embraced, just look at the subscription data. Finally, thank you for your support along the way. Not only do people scold me every day, but they also cheer me up every day above. Chapter 116 God's Natural Enemy Fruit Restraint. Rubber Jet Machine Gun. Da 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 da. The dense white fist marks exploded on Enel's body. Luffy, who seemed to be throwing a fist in front of him, fired countless air cannonballs out of thin air. But that's not the case, it's just because Luffy is so fast that he can't even see his fist. The so-called invisibility refers to Romans and these masters, rather than ordinary people. Ordinary people face Luffy, and they are already dead without even realizing what happened. Enel, who was instantly stunned, was left with only, who am I, where am I, who am I being beaten? 3 philosophical questions. His tall body was even suspended in the air by Luffy's enhanced version of rubber gun smashing. Intel. Rubber jet bazooka. Luffy's hands were clasped into tiger claws, and he used the stretch ability of the rubber to stretch his hands back and then suddenly retract them. The inhuman speed brought by the second gear instantly slammed into Enel's chest, making the god, like a cannonball generally fly backwards. Boom boom boom. Along the way, no matter whether it was a building or the ground, whether it was a rock or a tree, it was instantly smashed by Enel, who flew out. Draw a straight line on the battlefield. It's impossible. Enel, who suddenly stood up from the ruins, wiped the blood from his mouth with an unbelievably hideous look on his face. I am invincible, I am Almighty God. Rubber jet bullet. A fist quickly dilated in Enel's pupils, hitting him hard in the face before he could react. I don't care if you are a god. You dare to hurt my partner like that. Bang. Another punch slammed into Enel's stomach, almost causing him to spit out a mouthful of gall. Calm down. Enel, who flew upside down, finally recovered from the beating. Physical attacks don't work for me. As long as it's elementalized, what I have to deal with this kind of monkey is. Snapped. A hot fist slammed into Enel's face again, leaving him with only dents. What about my elementalization? What about my invincible thunderbolt form? ITM. Tisk tisk tisk, this is the absolute restraint of the devil fruit. Roman, who was guarded by Nami behind him, shook his head with lingering fear. Among the devil fruits in this world, the rubber fruit restrains Guro Guro no Mi, Rumble Rumble fruit, and this restraint is the absolute attribute suppression. Even if it is lightning of hundreds of millions of volts, the theory can already penetrate everything. But to say that it can't hurt a single hair of a rubber fruit can't hurt it, let alone lightning, it is the same reason that it is based on the huge amount of light and heat generated by lightning. What's more terrifying is that Luffy's current armament hockey is still in a state of being able to play with a flash of inspiration, but the characteristics of the rubber fruit have given him the ability to forcibly attack Enel, who ate Guro Guro no Mi, Rumble Rumble fruit. It's just a tick. Fortunately, the person with the ability to cut the fruit of the scissors is oneself, otherwise Roman would not have dared to imagine the scene where he wrapped Armament and Conqueror Hockey's paper in two pieces. I'm afraid the expression won't be much better than the now shocked Enel. Crackle. Lightning is not just for attacking. Enel, who was hung and beaten, finally came to his senses, and as he released a large number of small thunder lights, the battlefield spread all over the battlefield in an instant, densely intertwined into a jumping thunder net barrier. And then use these lightning to drive Enel to move, so fast. It's a real rush. In the eyes of others, only a flash of electric light could be seen, and Enel was free from Luffy's pursuit, so fast that he couldn't even see the afterimage. Woohoo! Enel, who was almost dumbfounded by Luffy's combination of punches, looked at the young man in front of him in embarrassment, and had to admit that he was wrong. What the hell are you, stinky boy? In the face of Enel's questioning, Luffy has a very pirate spirit pause attack. My name is Luffy, and I'm a pirate and a rubber guy. Rubber. What the hell is that? Enel knows that the other party is a Paramesha Devil Fruit ability, but what is rubber weight? To put it bluntly, he is only a Paramesha ability, no matter what the rubber is, but he must have a weakness. Shoo. Before Enel could think of a countermeasure, Luffy, who was in second gear, had already rushed in front of him at high speed again, and his steaming red fist had just proved its power. Heart net. Force yourself to calm down. Enel immediately launches Observation Hockey, finds the attack route and flaws from Luffy's Swift Fist Shadow, and at the same time throws his fist and leg to attack the opponent. But Luffy is a fighter trained by Garp since childhood, and Enel accustomed to using long-range thunder and lightning to attack the mage to melee. That is a tragedy. If it weren't for his perverted fighting ability, he would have been knocked to the ground by Luffy. Bang, bang. No, it can't go on like this. After taking 2 more punches, Enel had to give up the idea of using his fists to teach the Blue Ocean Monkey a lesson, and instead use the lightning barrier arranged around him to get away and fly back. Damn, if my weapon is still there, I can use other methods to test this guy's weakness. So that's the case, which means that boy playing with paper deliberately stole my weapon. Enel suddenly turned to look at Roman next to him, only to see that the other party waved at him, friendly. Sure enough, this guy. Etc. Since it is the rubber boy's companion who is playing paper over there, it is completely possible to hear this guy's flaws from the other party. So Enno used the surrounding thunder and lightning to pull him to do a high-speed dodge, and at the same time concentrated his mind and fully activated the heart net to cover Roman. Heard. This is stable. Lying to win. Hang up and watch the show and wait to surrender. MD, what gave you the courage to think that this god will lose? Enno, who was distracted, accidentally did not have time to dodge, and was grabbed by the neck with an arm that suddenly extended, and then rubber jet pistol. Puff. Enno, who was beaten with blood again by a punch, rolled over and avoided Luffy's subsequent attacks, wiping the corner of his mouth fiercely. Think about it, I don't need to compete with you at all. Unarmed, and facing the rubber monkey who was unscathed by the lightning attack he was proud of, Enno was ready to make a strategic shift. Anyway. When I drive out the Ark of Proverbs, I will blast you and this broken island directly into the blue ocean. As long as I don't have you, I will be invincible. Crackle. The lightning flashed, and Enno flashed and ran. The opponent opened the invincible hang, and the attack hit all zero. Don't run and wait to be abused. As a reasonable god, Enno's decision was very wise. How many bosses just can't swallow this breath, and insisted on a showdown with Luffy, and then was successfully dragged to death. He ran away, Luffy, run after him. In the face of Nami's shouting, Luffy, who was still showing great power just now, stood there, the red skin on his body and the rising steam gradually disappeared. Ah, I'm exhausted. Snapped. The whole person sat on the ground. Luffy turned his head. His face was like he had just run 30,000 meters with the seastone wristbands on, and his body was hollowed out after doing thousands of push-ups in one breath. To be more direct, it looks like he hasn't eaten for 3 days. Roman. Understood. Roman, who had regained some strength, opened his palms, and a piece of paper with a big mouth of an iron bucket appeared, and then the big mouth in the picture spat out big chunks of meat, big barrels of wine. Since getting on the boat, Roman has been preparing these exclusive items that can replenish blood to Luffy. Click, click, click. Ton ton ton. Fine, I'm alive again. Be careful, Luffy. In the face of eating and drinking, he jumped up full of energy, and was about to find Luffy, who was Enel to settle accounts. Roman had to remind him. Although because of the thinness of oxygen at high altitudes, the load on your body in the second gear is not as great as when it is below. But, he. In the face of Roman's exhortation, Luffy just bared issue. Then Roman, when you face the enemy yourself, won't you go all out? Understood. Wow. Pieces of white paper flew out from Roman's body to form a big bird. The guy has already started to lift off. Not far away, a giant spacecraft built by Going was slowly taking off. At the same time, smoke billows from the chimney. Of course, it wasn't some thick smoke, but a thundercloud created by Enel's ability. Just let me give you a ride, Luffy. Oh, thanks, Roman. Chapter 117 Destruction is coming. Second duel. Everyone. Listen to me. At the Sky Island pier, facing the blonde girl Canis driving the Waiba, everyone was hostile and repulsive. You guy, actually broke into the sanctuary. Which direction can come from? Only the sanctuary where the god and the priests live. And stepping into the sanctuary is an absolute felony for the inhabitants of Angel Island. Little girl, you offended. Click. A bazooka was aimed at the captain of the White Beret. The blonde girl clearly looked like a soft and cute girl, but at the critical moment, she also showed a strong side. Listen to me, I met a member of the team of gods who escaped in the sanctuary. The so-called god team is the subordinates of Sky Island's former god, Gonfuer. Most of those who are unwilling to surrender are captured and used as coolies, and a small part are the white policemen in front of them. Berets. God Enel is going to destroy the entire Angel Island. For a moment, the people who were still excited just now seemed to have been pressed the pause button. They looked at the blonde girl in disbelief, as if they were watching a lunatic who shouted that the world was going to be destroyed. But this madman has a way of proving that he is telling the truth. The blonde girl named Canis slowly closed her eyes. Do not admit that Enel is a god. Crazy. Run away. God's punishment is coming. Facing the embarrassed fleeing crowd, Canis just stood there quietly. After a while, as she expected, no thunder fell from the sky. Because there's no point in killing me alone. Enel is ready to abandon this place and destroy our home before leaving. After Uncle of the God team conveyed the news, he was arrested with the Lanhai people who were guests at my house yesterday. As long as you are disrespectful to God, that is, Enel, you will be God's punishment. This is the iron law of Angel Island. It is the majesty that Enel has built over 6 years in the bodies of countless victims, but on the other hand, if there is no God's punishment, it means. Moreover, the black thunderclouds that spread rapidly in the sky, the layers of enchanting electric snakes spread and swim around in the gaps of the dark clouds, from small clusters, like hundreds of rivers returning to the sea, they suddenly gathered together to form a waterfall like bright and dazzling lightning. Long chain, crashing down. Click. Although the thunder and lightning were only on the periphery of Angel Island, but looking at the direction of the dark clouds above, I am afraid. How is this possible? This is our hometown, where else can we go? Yes, our home, work, and... Facing the hesitant crowd, the girl Canis questioned angrily. Do you want to stay and die? But maybe there will be a miracle, maybe. Maybe God has changed his mind. Enough. The girl looked at the people who were still hesitating. Not everyone could resist in the face of adversity. More people just played the role of blindly obedient pigs, so they needed a leader to wake them up. Everyone knows that Enel has the power to make us despair. What's the use of waiting for a miracle to happen? In the past, we lived in silence, but now if we want to save our lives, we must take action. Everyone. The captain in the white beret stood up. Pack up and go to the end of the cloud. If necessary, we will go to the blue ocean, and do as this girl says. Backed by the white berets of the police system, Canis' words finally got a part of the Shakers into action. And as long as someone takes the lead, human beings will be driven by the herd mentality. Run away. Take your salute to the Western Port. Family is a unit, don't crowd. Berets maintain order. As the white beret began to direct the evacuation of the crowd, whether it was accepting the reality or simply blind obedience, the residents of Angel Island began to evacuate, while the blonde girl Canis was entangled by a group of people. My son is in the team of gods. My husband, the father of the child. Please. You must know about them, please tell us. Facing the requests of many family members of the God team, the girl was speechless. But someone has stepped forward to help her out. Leave the white beret to us about the team of gods. Everyone get on the boat and take refuge. We will bring back the people from the God team. Captain, Canis hesitated as many relatives were persuaded away. I know, the captain in the white beret didn't look back. I can guess what happened to the team of gods. Enel is such a ruthless person. Originally, I thought that doing dirty work for Enel was also a way to protect Angel Island. But now it seems. It's useless. We're useless. Is that guy really invincible? Big ear monster. Luffy, who was half squatting on Roman's white giant bird, flew towards the slowly ascending arc. Proverbs, causing Enel who was standing on the deck to frown. You blue sea monkey. Seeing Luffy jumping onto the deck, Enel looked unhappy. How dare you stop this god again and again? Why do you call yourself a god? Facing Luffy who was punching at a high speed, Enel froze Isho. Let you know now. In front of me, anyone can only bemoan their own powerlessness. Heart net. With observation hockey at full force, Enel was able to catch Luffy, Enel's movements in this one-on-one battle. Coupled with the tiny thunderbolts all over the battlefield, he felt like a duck to water. For a while, I saw Enel's body like a gust of wind and moving like lightning. With his arms waving, a new going stick in his hand was vertical and horizontal, and it looked quite well organized when swiping and slashing, and it was on par with Luffy. But one side had a weapon in hand, and the other was bare-handed, and during the fight, Luffy took a few sticks from Enel, but it didn't hurt, but Enel grinned after taking a few more punches. What the hell? It's nonsense that the other party can ignore the damage of lightning, and the fist can hit the elemental self. It's not scientific. Is the blow ineffective? After a few fights, Enel discovered the fact that Luffy was not afraid of blunt weapons. So, lay metallurgy. This is a convenient skill that uses high-voltage electricity to generate a lot of heat to melt the going, and then make it into the shape you want. With the going stick in Enel's hand, he immediately softened and transformed into a trident. Puff! The trident in his hand brought out a smear of blood. The calm Enel had observation hockey on his body, and his movements were even more peculiar. He was erratic on the deck, as if there were many invisible arms pulling him to move. Although melee combat is indeed Enel's weak point, but relying on geographical advantages and weapons, it is still on par with Luffy for a while, but it seems that this trick is still needed. Flying away, Luffy's feet pressed down suddenly, like an air pump, the blood began to accelerate. Second gear. Again. Mr. Roman, how's the battle going? In the ruins of the battlefield below, Robin was the first to wake up. She and Nami first helped Zoro and Webb, who were scorched in the black, to deal with it urgently, and then looked at Roman who was sitting cross-eyed with closed eyes. Luffy is playing with that big ear hanging. Roman's words made the two beauties breathe a sigh of relief, but Roman himself did not relax because Luffy in second gear is indeed pressing Enel, but Enel is too meaty. After taking so many punches in Luffy's second block state, although he looked like he was in a state of anger and embarrassment, it seemed that he was still a long way from being exhausted. This is also called a mage. Forget it. Think about it in the original book, when Luffy suffered a Newton-powered going on the giant clock, Enel could immediately get up and go straight to the moon. If it wasn't for him being afraid, he would have to go back to a 10,000-meter high-speed descent with another Lei Ying Straw Hat group. I hope Luffy can take down the opponent in one go this time. Chapter 118 Cowardly the Brave Go Forward. Woohoo! The celebration is ready. On the Ark of Proverbs, Enel, who was blue and purple, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. On the deck of the Ark, there are huge going spikes that are as sharp as knives. After discovering that Luffy was extremely fast on the one hand, but was afraid of slashing on the other hand, Enel immediately changed the terrain to his advantage. Anyway, he himself can incarnate thunder and lightning to shuttle freely among these goings, advancing, attacking, retreating and defending. As an uninvited guest, it's time for you to bow down to. Okay. Luffy, who had blood all over his body, cracked his teeth, and looked at the man with big ears on the opposite side with fearless eyes. But you're going to get out in the spaceship right now. I finally came to Sky Island once, and it was thunder and dark clouds. I haven't told Uncle Linglian that we found Going Township and also beat my companions like that. That won't do, I'm a god. Enel moved his shoulders, and I have to say that his constitution is really strong. It can resist Luffy's second block for a long time without much exercise, which is much harder than the stubborn Rokushiki iron block at the end of CP9. Life and Earth are mine. I'm free to shoo. In the face of Luffy, who suddenly turned at a high speed from the spike of going, Enel, who deliberately angered the opponent with his mouth cannon, squinted his eyes. Here we come. The going trident in his hand stabbed out instantly, but it only crossed an afterimage. At the same time, Enel had loosened his hands and dropped his weapon in the most critical close combat. That is because. Snapped. Rubber boy, I see through your actions. Your heart is under mine. Abruptly, He punched Luffy in the second block with his chest. Enel grabbed Luffy's arm and flew backwards. It was obvious that he deliberately chose to take the initiative to back off at this moment in order to lay metallurgy. With his back attached to the going wall of the spaceship, the reason why Enel resisted Luffy's punch was for the instant comeback. Wow! The liquid-like going not only offset the impact of Enel, but also rushed towards Luffy around him at the same time. It made Luffy's face suddenly fly back, but his body was withdrawn, but his fist was hot, hot. My hands. The entire forearm and fist are integrated into going. Fortunately, Luffy has a certain degree of resistance to heat in the second gear state, otherwise he will be peeled off this time. In just a moment, the offense and defense were already out of place. Clang! A huge golden ball fell on the deck of the Ark and was kicked aside by Enel. Hoo-ha! I am the Supreme God, there is no need to have the same knowledge as you, a blue ocean monkey. Enel, who was panting from the beating, supported his knees, and his physical strength was close to the limit. Fortunately, the script was flipped according to his plan. You bastard, keep fighting with me. Enel sneered at Luffy, whose arm was pinned by going. I refuse. If you bite back, wouldn't it be worth it? Lightning. Although Enel's lightning and all derivative abilities can't hurt Luffy, it can be turned into a shock wave and act on the golden ball. Wash the giant golden ball down the Ark. This golden ball is a reward for your strength. Gollum. Going giant ball rolls off the Ark. A huge force acted on Luffy. Although Luffy pulled the deck with his other hand, after Enel smashed the deck with a random lightning bolt, he had no choice but to be dragged by the golden ball and fell off the spaceship. As long as your actions are blocked, no one will be able to oppose me. Enel said it lightly, but his heart was feared. In fact, after he used going to seal Luffy's hand, what he should do most is to pursue the victory. However, it was the first time I was forced into a desperate situation, the first time I was beaten so embarrassingly, the first time. Too many accidents have made the self-proclaimed God, man choose a cowardly way of dealing with it. The Ark of Proverbs will never fall. After this fight, I will go back to my hometown of the moon. When I blast you and the entire sanctuary into the blue ocean, I will be invincible. Thinking that the Guyu thunder drum behind him was not strong enough, Enel, who had thrown a few flags for himself, turned around and looked to the other side of the deck. Why didn't you take the opportunity to sneak attack? Hoo-hoo. The huge white paper bird did not answer, but silently chased after the falling Luffy with a flutter of wings. Huh, the captain's duel. What a stupid act. Hello, Roman. Nami, who had placed a lot of lightning protection wires around, looked at the dark clouds in the sky. What kind of weather is that? I feel that the whole sky is full of thunder and lightning. Is this also the fruit ability? It's too exaggerated. Even if there are 3 devil fruit capable people on board, there are many capable people along the way, but Nami has never imagined that the devil fruit can control such an amazing natural disaster. Crocodile, who was trapped by Nami's artificial rain, has something to say. So, Guro Guro no mi, rumble rumble fruit, is a real bug. Roman, who was sitting next to him, sighed. As long as he looked up at the sky with lightning and thunder, no normal person would have any idea of confrontation. Not to mention the current Straw Hats, even if the experts from the Marine headquarters were brought in. How many are confident that Fatian will resist Enel? Lifting off with Moon Step in the face of thunder, I am afraid that people will be lost halfway. Doctor, I need a doctor. Chopper, who was bruised all over his body with a wooden staff, led the scout paper bird to the ruins. The way he shouted all the way made Roman raised his eyelids. Is this the legendary, doctors do not heal themselves? Well, we need a doctor too. On the other side, the charred Sanji appeared on the other side with the equally charred Usopp on his back, making Chopper quickly throw away his stick. Ah, put him down, I'll give him a heart massage. Ahem, Chopper, I see heaven. Don't die, Usopp. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. I see you are all in good spirits. On the other hand, Zorro from the Perverted Constitution and Weber, the great warrior of Shandia, also woke up one after another, causing Roman to stare at him. How can I make it seem like my constitution is the weakest? No, luckily I have Nami under me. Roman, I feel like you were thinking something rude just now. Absolutely not, that's your illusion. Roman, who waved his hand, looked to the other side, and a huge going ball was rolling in. Instantly caught Nami's attention. Roman, Nami. As for Luffy, who rolled over with the going ball, he was automatically ignored by Nami. Anyway. Chew, chew, chew. That big-eared monster is really abominable. I got this big going in my hands. Facing Luffy, who was gnawing on the meat and complaining, everyone twitched the corners of their mouths and didn't speak. If you have a fight, you can have a giant golden ball to give away. I am afraid that pirates will soon become the world's most profitable occupation. Crackling, boom. A thunder column as thick as a water tank slammed not far away, making Nami, Chopper, and Usopp shiver when he just woke up. Lightning flashed and thundered, and dazzling beams of light crashed down, constantly ravaging this piece of land located at an altitude of 10,000 meters. In the face of such a terrifying natural disaster, it was like the end of the world. Well, let's find a safe place. Where is the safe place now? Roman shrugged. Anyway, we've already made a lot of money this time, so go back to going merry and leave quickly. Wouldn't it be great if I left Sky Island and landed back on the ground? No. Luffy, who had just swallowed a piece of meat, had a serious face. I finally came to Sky Island once. I don't want to watch this place being blasted into the sky. I have to inform Uncle Linglian that Going Township is here. I'm going to beat that Enel away. Then how did you get up to find Enel? Roman pointed to the huge golden ball hanging from Luffy's hand. This local tyrant atmosphere, any decoration is a dish when it comes to the current Luffy. Did you see it? A going bracelet that weighs tons. Can't be bothered, can't be bothered. Hang this thing, I can't drag you with my current physical strength. Speaking of which, Roman was really envious of Luffy's method of reviving after a mad meal full of blood and demons. Anyway, he has only recovered a little stamina after resting for a while. Of course it's up to you, Roman, to find a way to send me forward. I knew it. Facing the righteous Luffy, Roman patted his pants and stood up. The thumb pointed to the huge vine beside it. This vine runs through the entire Sky Island, extending high into the sky. If you use this as a bridge. Come on, Luffy. The lives of our entire group are in your hands. Good. P.S. Dizzy, 3 chapters tomorrow. That's it, I'm not going to play games, really. Chapter 200 Wild Thunder Lei Ying destroys the city. The dark clouds are over the top, the lightning is thundering. Looking up, the whole sky is full of enchanting electric snakes swaying in the clouds. After being carefully collected, they quickly gather together to form a waterfall like bright and dazzling thunder. And this kind of lightning is not 1, 2, but densely packed. Wan Lei. Enel, standing on the Ark Proverbs, opened his arms and looked intoxicated. See, this is the true power of this god. Crawl under my omnipotent might, mortal, but be ruthlessly destroyed by me. Yahahaha. Come on. Everyone run away, this country is about to be destroyed. On Angel Island, all the people rushed to the port. If they were still skeptical about Kana's words before, then the thunder and lightning falling indiscriminately in the sky now is the best spur. If you don't want to die, run away. Quick, go to the end of the cloud. Don't worry about supplies, human life is the most important. Ship, sail. The white berets are still in the city. On the other side of the sanctuary, it forms a triangle with Angel Island. In Union Village, located in the clouds, a little girl named Aisha is also loudly persuading everyone. Everyone, leave the village. Angel Island is almost over. That big bad Enel is going to kill us too. He will even destroy the sanctuary, and then leave alone in a spaceship. But, Elsa. Compared with the oppressed Angel Island, Union Village with simple folk customs immediately believe the words of the little girl. On the one hand, the little girl herself is not a liar. On the other hand, it is well known that the little girl is born with the ability to have a wide range of heart nets. But the soldiers who went on the expedition haven't come back yet. Yes, Webb, Mantis, Bram, Lackey. They. Aisha, the little girl who bit her lip, lowered her head and let the tears fall on the clouds. Does she want her to tell everyone that the voice of the soldiers has disappeared from her heart? Everyone, get on the boat and leave the village immediately. At a critical moment, the chief of the village stood up. With his order, no matter whether they understood or doubted, they all started to move, and the efficiency was much faster than that of Angel Island next door. Boom. Crackling. A bucket-thick thunder light crashed down, as if to testify to Elsa's words. Seeing that Enel's signature ability fell in the village, the Shandia people of Union Village will not hesitate anymore. There are also benefits of going backwards in technology, which are: Go. Get out of the boat. Everyone aboard. Well, because of the lack of supplies, Shandia had nothing to salute to prepare. She just threw off her arms and ran to the sea of clouds outside. Chief, hurry up and get on board too. As more and more thunders fell, the old chief in wolf's skin looked back at the warrior statue in the center of the village. It was Calgary, the great warrior who made a promise with Rolando, the adventurer of the Blue Ocean, 400 years ago. He promised to be the benefactor who saved the whole of Shandia from tree fever, and Rolando, the admiral of the expedition and the botanist, would forever light the beacon of Shandora and guide his friends in the direction of their return. But when Shandora was swept into the sky by the giant soaring ocean current, she faced the surging Angel Island warriors. Originally, he was seriously injured in the sky and the ocean currents. Since then, Shandora's light has been extinguished for 400 years. It's ironic. The old chief looked at the thundercloud that filled the sky above his head. The place where the thunder light fell the most was not their Union Village, but the Angel Island that served the god. Two races that have fought for 400 years have to be wiped out together by a willful fellow. However, in the face of the continuously distorted and accumulated thunder and lightning in the sky, the thunder column crashed down. Whether it is Angel Island or Union Village, they only have the fate of holding their heads and fleeing. Please bless us, great warrior Calgary. Yeah, ha 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 ha. The wild laughter echoed in the sky, and the thunder light falling all over the body supported the owner of the laughter like a god, like a devil. That's right, that's right. Enel looked down. Although the ground was as small as an ant's nest filled with hot water, his heart was full of clear crying, wailing, prayer, despair. This kind of sound is like this. Pleasant to the ear. God is terror incarnate. Enel opened his arms and closed his eyes, intoxicated, listening to the voice of the weak with contentment. Fear me, serve me, please me, and then give me a big celebration when I don't need it. God came, not to bring peace to the world. God came to make the world use swords. Yeah, ha ha ha. I really like the sentence in this book by Lan Hai. Just use the thunder in front of you to once again confirm the invincible power of this god. Hiss. The sting of the wound on his body made Enel recover from the intoxication, and he frowned unhappily. And those monkeys from the Blue Ocean. A group of blasphemous guys, even if they were bombarded by their own thunder and lightning, still did not have the slightest fear. Even the guy who feared the loudest voice from before has become brave enough to wield swords at himself. Then, let's show you the real despair. From Shin Xiaochun. Hey, am I dazzled? Usopp rubbed his eyes hard and pointed to the sky unacceptably. What the hell is that? Well, you don't have dazzling eyes. Roman nodded. As long as you're not blind, you can see. Above Angel Island, in the pitch-black thunderclouds that filled the entire sky, a huge pitch-black thunderball slowly condensed and peeled off from the clouds. The thunderball with a diameter of hundreds of meters is so huge. Just its appearance immediately attracted the attention of everyone and creatures. Destruction, death, irresistible as long as they see this black thunderball. This is the only thought left in everyone's mind. In the giant thunderball, the infinite lightning flashes and flashes faintly, as if the thunder and lightning of the whole world are concentrated in it. At the same time, there was a zitza sound on the skin of Roman and the others who were far away in the sanctuary, as if there were countless invisible thunderbolts wandering around them. Hey, isn't it? Sanji didn't notice when the cigarette he was smoking fell to the ground. Are all great roots full of monsters like this? It's only been a month since I entered the Great Root. Crocodile, who controlled the sandstorm that swept thousands of miles, and Enel, who was driving the might of thunder to destroy the world. All kinds of monsters came on stage in turn, and they were about to train the nerves of the Straw Hats into tightrope. No, I have to get stronger. Zoro, who was holding the hilt, gritted his teeth. He was just able to cut through the wind and sand, but the natural disaster in front of him told him clearly. Can your knife cut through thunderbolts? Don't panic, it's not a big problem. There are buckets of thunderlight falling all around, and not far away is a giant pitch-black thunderball that slowly falls. By this time, Roman was the easiest one. Anyway, just watch our captain show. Yeah, ha, the sky belongs to me. Monkeys of the blue ocean, keep your eyes open and see clearly. As long as my ability is combined with the motto of the arc, I can achieve such a magical skill. As Enel's arm swung down, the pitch-black thunderball suddenly fell from the sky. Lei Ying. Bright light that penetrates everything. A heat wave that melts everything. The shock wave that shredded everything completely submerged and devoured the entire Angel Island. All the buildings collapsed in an instant. The ships turned into duckweed, fluttered in the air, burned and evaporated. The atmosphere was whining, and the clouds were shaking. The entire cumulus cloud is suffering from the pain of destruction. White takes over the entire line of sight, silence fills the ears, trembling permeates everything. After a few seconds, maybe more than 10 seconds or dozens of seconds, everyone finally regained their 5 senses. Yet before them, empty, nothing left. The entire Angel Island disappeared without a trace in the thunderlight, and the huge shock wave up and down the clouds penetrated the sky and the sea of clouds, declaring to everyone, what is the ultimate destruction? Mom. The same is true of small-yield tactical nuclear weapons. Roman turned his head and looked at the Straw Hat group standing next to the giant vines. How is it? Everyone, do you still have any doubts about the powerhouses of the Great Root I mentioned? Crazy, shaking your head. X6. Even Robin, the intellectual beauty, was about to throw his head out of the afterimage. He, then I'll go. Only Luffy, who was dragging a huge golden ball, looked fearlessly at the Ark of Proverbs in the sky. There was a guy on it who owed him an unfinished duel. Go, X7. Chapter 120 Going Roundabout Sky Island Bells. Yeah, ha, is this the going bell? Because he had been paying attention to Roman, Enel, who was driving the Ark of Proverbs, easily found the giant going clock above the clouds. It's spectacular. I'm going to take it to the infinite continent EH. In Enel's heart, he sensed that the little bugs from the blue ocean not only did not bite their fingers and tremble, but they were still playing little tricks. Chop down this giant vine and use it as a bridge to send Luffy up. As for what happened after that, then look at Luffy's. I'm coming. There are not many cruel words. The premise is that Zoro, who is not reading poetry, suddenly rushed to the giant vine, and dropped his knife. The strength of Zoro, who can cut iron and emit sword energy, is also increasing rapidly, and this huge plant can no longer hinder his blade. Cut. The knife light swiped, and skyscrapers generally consist of 2 vines winding upwards and a root silently drop from the middle. But not enough, there is another one. Zoro, do it again. You treat me, forget it. Just as Zoro barely got up and was about to slash the second knife, Webb, the great warrior of Shandia, who had been silent for a while, stood up. Why are you so obsessed with challenging Enel? Blue Ocean people. Unlike the Shandians or Angel Islanders who live on Sky Island, the Straw Hats are just a group of sightseers, but it is the wisest choice to slap the butt and leave when they encounter such a thing. That won't work, if we don't ring the going bell and let Uncle Linglian know that Shandora is here. He will definitely be salvaged in the sea for the rest of his life. Uncle Lingon. Facing Weber's doubts, Roman explained. It was an uncle we met called Mont Blanc Kulik, who had been salvaging the ocean below this island. To prove his ancestors didn't lie. By the way, his ancestor was a famous person. Roman shrugged. It's called Vembra Rolando. It was the great benefactor of the Shandian people 400 years ago. Because the sky and the ocean current rushed Shandora into the sky, he was put to death as a big talker. These Webers came to Sky Island occasionally. Others out there already know. But what he didn't know was that the descendants of that great benefactor were also working hard to prove the innocence of their ancestors. On the other side of the vine, leave it to me. Bang! Suddenly jumping to the other side of the giant vines, the charred warrior Weber aimed his palm at the vines. Break out, babe. Boom! The huge vine was blasted out of a hole the size of a basketball court on the spot, and Webb, who was already scarred and overused his battering shell, flew out on the spot. Go, boy from the blue ocean. To ring the going bell, for the descendants of our Shandians to the benefactors. Offer a light that is 400 years late. Oh. Luffy, dragging the huge going ball, ran up along the slowly falling giant vine. Luffy. To the arc motto in the sky, to the man named Enel who calls himself God. This time, I will definitely ring the going bell. Quote. Stupid. However, Enel, who was standing on the deck of the Ark Proverbs, just watched from the sidelines. He just needs to move the ark a little bit to the side, and the bridge will be snapped. Two huge arms rested on the slowly falling vines, as well as the giant snake named Lord of the Sky. Oh, do you understand human speech? Roman in the giant white knight looked at the giant snake next to him. The giant white knight, he is now is just the end of the shot. Although he has strengthened his strength, it is still very difficult to move this giant vine. But with the help of Sky Lord. Come on, I'll push with you. Ka ka ka. The slowly falling giant vines are changing direction at the same time, and the tip points to Enel's arc motto again. And dragging the going ball along the vine and rushing up, was Luffy's angry roar. Get out of the way. Big-eared monster. If you let me get out of the way, I'll get out of the way. Where do I the face of this god? Enel, who could have been able to fly away with the ark, paused and stopped him to face Luffy who was on the way up. Anyway. Sad monkey. You want to get close to me, it's beyond your own power. Enel's thunderbolts have absolutely no effect on Luffy, but on other things. Crackle. A long chain of lightning pierced the sky and instantly hit the top of the vines. How could a plant shrunk to the size of only one person resist the might of Enel's thunder? The vines exploded on the spot, leaving Luffy who was about to rush to the Ark Proverbs. Damn, you big-eared monster. Brush. The vines began to break and fall, one hand was dragged by the going ball, and there was no road ahead. But Luffy, who refused to admit defeat, suddenly stretched his other arm and grabbed the deck of the Ark Proverbs. Just when he was about to exert his strength. Go down and wait till you die. Enel, who kicked Luffy's hand out with one kick, looked up and laughed. A monkey is a monkey. Go to the ground and wait to be blasted down 10,000 meters by my Lei Ying. Unless you can still grow wings. Brush. The huge white wings spread out behind Luffy, making Luffy, who should have fallen, suspended in the air, and slowly rose to level with the deck during the flapping of the wings. Facing Luffy's face full of anger, Enel, the self-proclaimed god, took a big step back. You don't come here. Come on, Luffy. Roman's voice came from the white wings behind him. This is my last paper. Paper dance. Rubber, Angel Luffy. Ooh. The arm hanging with the going ball was extended and rotated by Luffy, twisting into a long twist to charge up. Then he slammed back suddenly, and Enel on the Ark of Proverbs and the going bell behind him were 3 o'clock in line. Now, I'm going to ring with you. Presumptuous. 200 million volts. In an instant, Enel turned into a giant of thunder and lightning with muscular knots. The lower part of the body is a thundercloud in the sky, and a roar that is more turbulent and intimidating than thunder and raging waves utters from his mouth. Thor. You said you were going to ring the going bell. Every roar resonated with 10,000 thunders, and every exhalation made the wind howl. Above the thunderclouds, thunder and lightning flashed through the sky, swaying and rolling incessantly, flashing all over the sky, as if to applaud their king. Just a Paramesha, how many times have you disobeyed this god? Until I ring the going bell. In Luffy's roar, the going ball that bound his right hand finally finished charging and suddenly rebounded. With a terrifying high-speed rotation, it blasted towards the huge Thor on the ark. This punch is not only Luffy's strongest strength, but also the high-speed rotation and huge mass of the going giant ball itself. Faced with this surging punch, Enel made the stupidest decision. Yeah, ha ha ha, watch me stop. Click. The going trident in his hand exploded instantly, and Luffy's fist in the huge going ball quickly enlarged in Enel's pupils. Not. At the same time, this punch brought a thin layer of dark color and domineering arrogance, breaking the wind and breaking the thunder. Like a dragon's roar, like a beast's roar, the animation sky thunder cloud rolled for a while, turned into a spinning golden dragon, and the overbearing impact of the Vice Admiral's Thor form of Enel pushed all the way back and flew backwards. Then, clang! How can? The invincible Thor was slapped on the going clock behind. In the sky-shaking bell, it was Luffy who fell, supported by the flying white paper after the going ball shattered. It was Enel who fell unconscious, and the Ark of Proverbs that also began to fall after losing its master. The thundercloud dissipated and the bells rang. The bells, separated by 400 years, spread all over the world, reaching Jaya Island, which is 10,000 meters below. For the big talker, Rolando to wash away the grievances, to draw an end to the Battle of the Straw Hats, and to put a stop to the destruction of Sky Island. That idiot Enel. Roman directed the last piece of paper to carry the exhausted Luffy down slowly. The mage looks like a mage. Just a teleport can be invincible, and you have to play one-handed melee. Forget it, no matter what. The trip to Sky Island has finally come to an end.